20 years ago, an event occurred that changed the entire world. The story of a dungeon, Year 1. That day became known as the end of an era. We see a strange symbol that looks like a sun. Although I managed to become an S-class, it transforms into the photo of a little girl. Forgive me. And at that moment, carrying this locket with the photo, he enters this portal with the symbol that looks like a sun. When he completely crosses this strange veil, he changes clothes. He is now dressed like an RPG thief, an assassin. A system screen appears in front of him, and he thinks, class, Kyomiaki, age, 38, level, 50, class, assassin, rank, S. He says, why am I asking for something like this? And then, we finally reach the dungeon. He sees his team, and his warrior teammate calls out, let's go. They enter this dungeon, which looks very tall and has a cool design. I'm enjoying the art of this work. A large shadow catches their attention, and he says, ah, they've appeared. Then, we see a large dark wolf with ruby red fur. It's a B-class dark wolf. The warrior says, hey man, try to handle this on your own. He responds, oh, I understand, but he seems very tired and sad. He leaps towards the wolf but misses. By the time he realizes where he is, it's too late. Our protagonist is already hiding behind a large tree. He says, what power, even a normal monster is this strong, right? But then he jumps over the wolf with his knife and says, I won't miss this chance. He stabs the wolf in the chest, but it doesn't seem to work. The wolf counters with a powerful attack, and our protagonist falls to the ground, wounded. The wolf roars at him from close range, and just as the protagonist is about to be attacked, the warrior easily cuts off the wolf's head as if it were butter. The warrior asks, are you struggling with a beast like this? He mocks our protagonist, saying, you're too weak to be S-class. Why don't you just retire? The other adventurers also start laughing at him, and our protagonist is shocked. But the mage says, hey, stop that. He's the weakest assassin, but he's not doing too badly. While cleaning his wounds, he admits, I know I'm weak. The class evaluation system is very advanced, and it's determined that assassins aren't suitable for combat. Despite being ridiculed and feeling his skills are not very useful, he's still in this S-class group. He says this while looking at the photo of the little girl with a very depressed expression. It's all just to see her smile again. He worked desperately as an adventurer to afford treatment for his sister, but he couldn't find the time. His younger sister died, and we see him at her memorial. He says her illness progressed very quickly and believes he can't change his lifestyle anytime soon. We see him taking a lot of hits in combat. He says his limits as an assassin have been reached, and it's proven that the assassin is the weakest class, not made for combat. We see the warrior sitting and saying, I'm tired. Well, that's it for today. We'll come back after a bit of rest. The mage says, alright, and begins to heal the warrior's wounds. He says, yes, maybe we can discuss the reward distribution during our break. While she heals the warrior, our protagonist is all beat up and bloody. The warrior says, Kiyomi, aren't you worried about any rewards during this break? He replies, I don't care. The warrior says, yes, be grateful you're in the group, even if you're still pathetic. Despite being mistreated, he continues working as an adventurer because dungeons hold infinite possibilities. The warrior says, well, let's head back now. Our protagonist is very weak. Suddenly, everything starts shaking, and a huge monster appears in front of them. It looks like a bulked-up Frisia with armor and a strange face. I like the design of this creature. Our protagonist exclaims, oh my god. This bizarre creature, with a big smile, stares at them. It looks more like a kaiju. The system says it's an S-class mechanical dragon, Kukukin. The warrior says, ah, a high-level opponent, the cherry on top for today. We see the same sun-like symbol, the dungeon symbol, but our protagonist thinks, no, something is wrong, something is different. He isn't like the other bosses we face. The warrior says, I'm going in. He tells Kiyomi, I'll leave the support to you. The others also charge at the mechanical dragon, but when the warrior strikes the dragon, his sword breaks in two. The warrior kneels on the ground, thinking, what is this? Why is he so strong? He says, damn it, should we run? The protagonist thinks, yes, running doesn't seem smart. Idiot. The mechanical dragon, which can speak, is very powerful. Suddenly, he is pushed and falls to the ground. He realizes it was the warrior from his own team who pushed him down. The warrior says, Kiyomi, I'm sorry, man. As the dragon bites Kiyomi, the dragon devours our protagonist while the warrior runs with the team, asking if everything is okay. He says, no, it's all fine. I was already wanting to cut ties with him since he's useless. And we see the cut. Our protagonist's body is split in half, but strangely, there's no blood. We realize it was actually a stone clone behind a pillar. He says he barely escaped using his clone. He thanks the gods that assassins have high agility, but he thinks those jerks used him as bait to escape. He thinks, I can't win alone. I need to find a way to escape. Suddenly, he hears a very sinister voice. It says the plan is going as planned. I'll be able to cross the gates and annihilate those humans. And our protagonist is thinking, where is this voice coming from? As the dragon stomps the ground, it says, the gates are open. The dragon is already staring intently at our protagonist. Our protagonist shouts, it's impossible for monsters to pass through the gate. But the voice says, from this moment, it is possible for me. The dragon starts conjuring an attack with its mouth. Our protagonist thinks, if this is true, it will be very unpredictable. If one of these monsters escapes. He grabs his knife and says, "No, I can't flee from here, not after hearing this." He prepares for the fight, thinking that he will do it even if it saves just one person. The voice says, "You are very brave for someone used as bait, but what can you do now?" The dragon roars loudly, but it's surprised to see several clones of our protagonist behind it. It manages to kill them all with a single attack. However, the real protagonist is on top of the creature with his knife. When his blade strikes the dragon's mechanical armor with all its might, it breaks in two and the blade flies away. Our protagonist realizes another attack is coming his way. Despite seeing it, he still gets hit by the dragon. He crashes into a wall, bleeding heavily. He thinks, "I need to observe it better. There must be some chance to win." The mechanical dragon uses thermal vision to identify the real protagonist instead of a clone. Once it finds him, it shoots a laser beam from its mouth. Our protagonist gets a big scratch on his shoulder from the blast. A huge explosion occurs. He thinks his main body is exposed, and our protagonist knows he probably used thermal vision. But then, he notices something that really grabs his attention. He sees that same dungeon symbol, but this time on the creature's neck. He wonders, could this be the weak spot? Should I bet on this? He quickly grabs another knife and creates more clones, and the dragon thinks, "What?" The protagonist thinks, "It was bad, but I'm putting my life into this." The dragon tries to revive Kanturo with its claws, managing to completely tear off our protagonist's face. But he doesn't give up. With his broken knife, he heads toward the creature's neck and uses his skill, Phantom Cut. When he hits the symbol, the dragon screams loudly. He keeps aiming for that symbol, and the creature thinks, "What?" Our protagonist, all battered and messy, manages to smile. He thinks, apparently, this was the right move. We see him falling, saying, "This is also my limit. Being the weakest class, at least I tried to look cool." We see the mechanical dragon is still alive but gravely injured. It thinks, "Magnificent, it's the first time I've been pressured like this. I'll have to postpone my plan." It invokes a large symbol, saying, "We'll meet again." Our protagonist, with only one functioning eye, watches the scene. He says, "At least in the end, I managed to help the world a bit." Suddenly, a system screen appears, and a voice speaks inside his head, "Reward for subjugating the mechanical dragon alone. A mission bonus has been applied." The protagonist thinks, "Who are you? What are you talking about?" A system screen shows there is currently no mission. Still confused, he thinks, "No, for me, I'm dying now, it doesn't matter." Suddenly, we see someone turning off an alarm clock. It's 7 a.m. now, and we see what appears to be a much younger boy. He looks very scared and checks himself in the mirror. The protagonist, now much younger, says, "I'm alive, and I'm younger too." He thinks, "Why did I come back? Was it the dragon's influence?" He remembers the system screen, or was it that strange screen? Suddenly, he returns to bed and sees a notification on his phone. When he looks, it's a message. The message reads, "Big brother, your sister wants to eat lots of chocolate." He remembers his sister, Natsu, the same little girl from the photo. He thinks, "You're alive," and cries tears of joy. He wipes his tears, saying, "Okay, I can't hesitate now. I won't make the same mistakes again. This time, I'll definitely save you, Natsu." In the replay scene, we see him entering the hospital room, and he bursts in, startling his sister, whom he calls Natsu. He hugs her immediately and asks, "Are you real?" She asks, "Do you have a fake version of me?" In the hospital room, the protagonist starts watching TV. The news says the main treatment for this disease is still under research, but scientists are considering common medications like vaccines or pills. The protagonist thinks no drug will cure her. He believes they will eventually develop the right treatment, but it will take a long time. To endure until then, he needs to become an adventurer. He gets up, thinking, "If that's the case, I can't relax now. I need to register as an adventurer as soon as possible." As he walks down the streets, a system screen appears, informing him, "A quest has appeared for you. The mission is to sprint 10 times as if in a race, take 20 steps, and greet 30 people." He thinks, a mission? He believes this is the voice he heard in his head before dying, the reward for subduing the dragon. He thinks, let's try to complete this mission. Suddenly, he shouts, "Good afternoon," to an old man on the street. They face each other for a moment, then he runs off, his face all red, saying, "Ah, you're so embarrassing." He thinks, but if I don't say it out loud, it won't count for the mission. He makes 10 sprints, right? 10 of those runs. He can take 20 steps. He keeps thinking, this is a mission. Then he greets another lady. When he completes the 30 greetings, the mission is complete. The system tells him to receive his reward. It also says a substantial growth reward is given for the first mission. He evolves directly from level 1 to level 3. And the system says, "Please do your best again tomorrow." He thinks, level 3 already? No, that's impossible. It usually takes 3 months to get here. He realizes that if this is true, he might be on the path to becoming much stronger. Suddenly, the girl he was greeting places a candy in his hand, saying she was happy with the greeting. Kiyomi arrives and thinks, if I remember correctly, it will always be like this. Oris. She gives him what looks like a metal ring, saying she analyzed his status as an adventurer. His name is Kiyomi Aki, 18 years old, level 3, no class, and rank F. He thinks, wow, I really am level 3. We find out that the strange ring is actually a bracelet. The receptionist says that with this bracelet, he can choose his class, and she advises him to choose wisely. He responds, yes, thank you. He believes every class has its own range of skills and thinks about the class he will choose. He shouts loudly, I'm without a class. All the other adventurers start laughing at him, asking, you're going to a dungeon without a class? That's impossible, you fool. He thinks he will eventually take the strongest path. Then a stern adventurer says, excuse me, sir, you're going to a dungeon without a class. You better choose your class wisely. She says, yes, she's not listening to me. Meanwhile, he heads to a sword shop to buy the Devil's Bite, a huge blade. He thinks, even though it's a huge sword and lack the ability to stab, it feels light to me because I'm level 3. Naturally, he buys the sword. As he walks through the streets again, he thinks, this sword and this type of equipment are really expensive, but this investment is very important. He thinks, and by the way, I already have the first part. Suddenly, the scene changes to a beginner's dungeon, and there are two very nervous guys in front of it, one saying, hey, you go first, and the other replying, no, you go first. Kiyomi simply walks past them and enters the portal, thinking, yeah, this guy must know what he's doing, as he passes through the portal, feeling nostalgic, saying he also started here. As he draws his sword, a slime comes at him, but he kills it with one strike. Since it's just a sticky rank F slime, and his body feels much lighter, he thinks that even without any skills, it's very easy for someone at level 3. He slashes his sword downwards, exclaiming, damn skeleton, thinking he struggled in battles even as an assassin, but now his mission is a great success. He also stops to collect the magic stones that fell from the monsters, explaining that these magic stones will be used as energy in the future to create science and help people. It's a power of another level. Adventurers go to dungeons mainly to find these magic stones. Suddenly, a loud roar is heard behind him. It's a monster called Oris, a rank E monster, very rare. It looks like a skeleton with flaming parts around its body. Kiyomi exclaims, a rare monster, saying it's rare for that guy to appear in this dungeon, but Oris blocks his attack, even with his huge sword. He acknowledges it as a formidable enemy. Oris can even knock away Kiyomi's sword with a shield. Oris tries to hit Kiyomi with his sword, but misses. This attack used by Oris is called Radiant Sword Slash, and Oris uses another skill called Celestial Sword Dance. Kiyomi and Oris exchange sword blows, and Kiyomi smiles, thinking the true potential of a classless adventurer will be discovered. He remembers something about the system called Mastery. Compared to other classes, Mastery for classless adventurers increases much faster. A system screen appears, saying he learned another skill, Radiant Sword Slash, just like Oris used. He also learned Celestial Sword Dance, which he used to cut Oris' arms off. He believes the mastery of a classless adventurer is 10 times greater than any class. Meanwhile, he unlocks another skill called Indomitable Sword Slash. He thinks that when you have classless mastery, you can copy your opponent's skills, feeling very lucky this time. He completely destroys Oris, who drops a class D magic stone. When he returns to the Adventurers Association, the receptionist says, oh, you're back quickly, and he replies, it was a bit different from what I planned. She says, I know, being classless is impossible. He responds, no, actually, I finished earlier than expected. He drops a backpack full of dungeon rewards, including the magic stone from the rare monster Oris. Suddenly, a guy places his hand on Kiyomi's shoulder, saying, hey, wait a minute, a classless adventurer defeating a rare monster? Are you cheating? The guy threatens, I'll mess you up, while Kiyomi says, oh, come on, give me a break. When he returns to his friend, he asks, is he really a noob? The receptionist says she transferred his reward, which was 101,068 yen. Suddenly, right in front of him, a system window appears, stating an emergency mission is starting. Kiyomi is obviously worried about this emergency mission, wondering what kind of mission it could be now. The mission displayed on the system screen reads, in front of the train station, you need to sing passionately for 5 minutes. He thinks this is absurd, but in the next scene, we see him singing, with people stopping to watch. Obviously, our protagonist is fulfilling the mission, right folks? And there he was singing, ah, I love you so much. Kiyomi is thinking, my god, this is too much. When he finally finishes, he thanks everyone who listened. An old man tries to give him a coin, and he realizes he has to do this if he wants to get stronger. The system appears again, saying the mission is completed. He sang passionately for 5 minutes in front of the train station. This time, the reward is an item, and he is shocked by it. The item is a stone ring, the magic stone of evaluation. For those familiar with such work, they know what an evaluation is. He thinks there's no better time to get this. He begins to explain that mastery is an indicator of how good he is with a specific weapon. The higher your mastery, the more you can explore your weapon's capabilities. Currently, with the large sword he's using, he has an attack mastery of 8, 77 defense, 73 magic attack, 79 magic defense, 83 agility, and 116 luck. His current skills are the flaming splendor of the sword and and the divine dance of the sword. He thinks, yes, 8 mastery, this is exactly what I needed right now. He believes that even if he wasn't classless, he would probably still be at mastery level 1. He returns to the beginner dungeon, already using his divine dance. Slime, 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 he says, feeling great. He uses fire shower on a rank F skeleton too. He feels a bit tired, saying, yes, let's stop for today, surrounded by several dead monsters. He opens the system window again to see that he is now level 4, and his mastery with the spadon is 10. He has 80 ATK, 79 DEF, 81 magic, 75 magic def, 85 agility, and 118 luck, still with the same skills. The system informs him that he received points for leveling up. He places all the attribute bonus points into luck, believing that luck has good synergy with mastery. As he collects more magic stones, he thinks he might acquire new skills again. With a backpack full of magic stones, he says, yes, the results are satisfying so far. He returns to the Adventurers Association. A man at the reception is looking for amazing people. He asks the receptionist, you don't have any information, do you? Why don't you tell me a bit about them? To get rid of him, she sees the protagonist and says, this guy, he's really an amazing person. The man says, ah, so at least one. He puts his hand on Kiyomi's shoulder and says, hey, we're recruiting amazing people for our group, highly competent adventurers. Do you want to join us? Kiyomi asks, do you need me? The man replies, yes, and don't tell me that backpack is full of magic stones, right? Kiyomi responds, ah, okay, ah, incredible. The man says, it doesn't matter if you're a beginner. Experience isn't as important for talented people. We're from the Blood Serpent clan, and we're currently planning to go to the Dungeon Abyss, which is an S-rank dungeon. Kiyomi thinks the dungeon is an abyss. He believes it was the first dungeon to appear and is a supreme dungeon. He thinks no one, neither now nor in the future, has ever been able to clear it. The man asks, hey, what are you thinking? Will you come with us? Kiyomi replies, sorry, but I have to decline. The man says, don't say that, putting his arm around Kiyomi. What's your class? He asks. Kiyomi replies, classless. The man starts laughing. Classless? Oh, you're an indecisive one who can't even pick a class. He loses interest, saying, later, loser. The receptionist apologizes, sorry for introducing such a rude person. Kiyomi responds, I don't mind. He shocks the receptionist again with a backpack full of magic stones. She asks, are you really classless? Kiyomi confirms, yes, I'm classless. Meanwhile, there's a woman watching them, and it seems people know her. She approaches Kiyomi, and the whole scene feels a bit subjective. She introduces herself with a flirty attitude, and he thinks she is exceptionally beautiful. She then says to Kiyomi, oh, sorry for eavesdropping, but I heard you managed to clear a dungeon all by yourself, despite being classless. He replies, yeah, I'm classless. He must be tired of saying it. I'm tired of saying it too. She gets all flirty, getting closer, and says, you're a very interesting person. Do you have any hidden advantage in being classless? He says it's a secret. She responds, ah, you're smart. I like you. She introduces herself as Alice Takagi from the Carnelian Wrath clan. My god, what a name, Carnelian Wrath. Carnelian is a beautiful name, a stone, if you search for a mineral. He asks if she will understand if he says he's S-rank. Alice responds, what does someone like you want from me? She explains that the abyss is in his sight, and she wants him as a partner. He looks back at her, saying, even though I'm classless? She replies, yes, even though you're classless, if you're strong, it doesn't matter. She extends her hand to him, but he wants to keep information about exclusive mastery to himself for now. He thinks about what to do next, but he shakes her hand firmly and says he will do everything possible to achieve his goals. She responds, no problem. Suddenly, she lets go of his hand and says, anyway, I can't let an F rank like you go straight to the top. I'll write a formal invitation for you to join a D rank guild called Frozen Darkness. He believes this is a guaranteed right for S rank adventurers, which are these official invitations. With such invitations, weaker adventurers can face much greater challenges. The receptionist interrupts, oh, I can make the payment now. And then, what? He receives the proof, and Alice is amazed. 90,000 from the first dungeon? He continues, don't look at my cell phone. She runs after him. I want to eat a parfait, right? He says, I'm not giving you food. The next scene is in the freezing darkness, the D-rank dungeon. Our protagonist enters without fear but with a coat to stay warm. He feels a strong chill, a blizzard, and says his vision is terrible because of it. He thinks the timing for the story here is bad, but suddenly he senses something approaching. When he looks back, he sees a terrifying silhouette. It's a creature called White Silent, resembling a polar bear but much fiercer and D-rank. As Kiyomi draws his sword, the demonic bite, he says, so a monster of this level can just appear out of nowhere, right? While he faces this monster, the system appears again, initiating another mission. During this fight, he has to hold his breath for 60 seconds. He thinks, oh my god, another ridiculous ridiculous mission. The monster wastes no time and attack, but he manages to dodge easily. He thinks this is thanks to being level 4, as after reaching this level, he can see the enemy's movements much more clearly. He makes a cut on the creature's shoulder, saying he will only make this wound to prolong the fight for now because he needs to complete this mission. He's holding his breath for 60 seconds. He starts holding his breath, turning purple, while the creature continues attacking. As he defends himself, he thinks, my god, 60 more seconds of combat, why does it feel like forever? When he finally completes the mission, the system announces he will receive his reward, and he exhales, feeling very relieved. Thanks to the reward, he can now level up to 5. He uses the indomitable dance to pull the creature's arm and the radiant slash to decapitate it, ending the fight. After beheading the creature, the system grants him a new skill. This new skill is the ice barrier, which gives him protection against the cold. He feels calm now and says, yes, conquering this dungeon will be easy. While our protagonist reflects, snow accumulates, and he thinks, my god, I better leave before I get buried. We then see our protagonist chasing a small creature, a snow hopper, which looks like a rabbit with a strange horn. Despite using his skills, he can't catch the creature. It even starts mocking him. He says, oh, what a bad personality, huh? Frustrated, he gives up trying to buy that sweater. He fills his bag with magic stones again, thinking, yes, if there are so many rank D stones here, it should be enough. He thinks of Alice, saying, yes, you have my gratitude, Alice. This place has given me good experience points. He also starts to think, ah, she's wonderful too, but shakes the thought off, saying, I shouldn't be thinking about that now. This guy is focused. This old man and his sister are focused. No woman will divert his attention. He looks at the mountains, which have much more to explore, and says, I'll go as far as I can today. Suddenly, he hears a scream and sees a guy being thrown into one of the glaciers. Not only is he down, but another guy is also lying there, all bloody. Only a little girl is left, looking very scared. The attacker is a giant, muscular version of the snow hopper. Just as it's about to crush the girl's panties, our protagonist swiftly grabs her in his arms. We see its name, Big Boss Jumper, a rare rank D monster. Kiyomi thinks, ah, a rare monster. Meanwhile, Samuel is embarrassed to be in his arms. Kiyomi takes out a cloth from his bag, saying, I'll help you, and he places the cloth so she can sit on the snow. She's blushing, a true knight, our protagonist. The people are grateful, exclaiming, my god, a rescue. One guy asks, what's your class? Kiyomi replies, I have no class, leaving everyone shocked. The men thank him, saying, yes, thank god you arrived in time. The creature faces our protagonist, who unsheathes his sword. The jumper jumps towards him, trying to crush him with a brick, but Kiyomi dodges the attack. The animal doesn't stop, rising with its prey. Kiyomi dodges and analyzes its attacks, managing to get behind it. He thinks the creature isn't happy today. The jumper jumps very high towards the protagonist. Kiyomi thinks, yes, your jump is really impressive. He plans to put his points into attack when he evolves to level 5, considering it rude that something like this happened. He declares, I'll cut you with my skills. He strikes the creature in the chest, witnessing it being split in half. As the creature's pieces fall, filled with magic stones, the girl falls in love with our protagonist. The men wonder how a classless guy could use a sword skill and cut the creature like that. Kiyomi thinks, I have no intention of hiding my skill. He approaches the girl and asks if she can stand, extending his hand to her. Nervous, she takes his hand, but he simply says, you're a healer, right? Why don't you help those people there? Disappointed, she replies, oh, of course, that would be it, right? As our protagonist thinks about the money he will earn from the crystal he obtained, the healer helps the other injured people. The warrior says, ah, I never thought I would be helped by a healer and a classless guy. Meanwhile, Yusuke thinks that healers really get kissed in these kinds of moments, but the other guy is being rude to her. He says, go, hurry up and help me. She becomes increasingly nervous, talking about being a mage. He says, I put you in the group for this. Stop being weak and heal me. While she heals him, Keldon thinks they don't see her true value. The mage says, ah, you're too slow. I'll kick you out of the group if you don't improve. She becomes desperate and starts crying, but the priest says, yes, please expel her. You already have so much potential to be wasted here. Come to my side instead. She starts crying, now out of happiness. She asks, is this a marriage proposal? Meow. The protagonist says, in summary, you're terribly mistaken. But he says that she will become the strongest viper he knows. He asks if she believes him and extends a helping hand. The scene tries to create an awkward angle but ends up looking beautiful. Ellen Kuda looks at him and says that somehow he is different from the others. She holds his hand and says, I trust you. She presses harder, saying, I really want to believe in you. Kiyomi says, then leave it to me. But the moment is interrupted by Kiyomi, who says he has more things to do and needs to go now. He bids her farewell. She stands in the snow, super confused. She returns to the Adventurers Association. When he returns, the receptionist asks, oh my god, so many things. I don't know if you can see, but there are many magic stones from the freezing darkness. She takes the magic stones and says, yes, I'm sure I'll promote you to Class E. The young man thinks, yes, thank you. With Class E, he can enter a rank D dungeon without an invitation. The receptionist thinks, wow, I've never heard of a classless person being promoted before. This explains a bit about the ranking ranking system. If you become rank E, you can enter rank D dungeons and are no longer considered a beginner. Basically, you can enter a dungeon one rank above your own. He has already earned over 200,000 yen and thinks, yes, that's good money. He decides to buy a present for Nat and gets a bag full of cupcake. He knocks on the door. Natsu, I'm coming in. The nurse thinks, oh my god, so many cupcake. When he arrives, Natsu is still sleeping. He admires her a bit and even makes a face. He sits next to her, determined not to let anything bad happen to Natsu this time. He's gathering the pieces to fulfill this purpose. He feels lucky to have found that healer so soon. She will be essential for Natsu's treatment. When he tries to store the cupcakes in the room's refrigerator, he realizes there isn't enough space, so he starts eating half of them to make them fit. A nurse passes by, thinking, did he eat all that? In the hospital courtyard, it was already night. Keldon says, I wanted to tell you I completed my mission. The person he's talking to is Alice. She says, so you really went through the freezing darkness being classless, right? He replies, yes, it's thanks to you that I'm getting stronger. We see Alice. She's wearing pajamas. She says, ah, so you have expectations, right? She asks, do you want me to tell you about other dungeons? He says, no, not really. It's someone I want to train. He says he knows she has many connections and information. Alice says, yes, of course. Kiyomi tells her that the healer is very promising. He wants to join a group with her and the necromancer. Alice smiles, saying, you have some strange methods. Kiyomi says, it's more interesting this way, isn't it? He thinks that the synergy between the healer and the necromancer could make him stronger. This is knowledge still unknown at this time. Alice says, yes, I can do that for you, but you will owe me one. He thinks the healer might get jealous of this, but says, okay, I'll leave this task to you. Alice says, okay, I'll take care of it for you. Kiyomi and Alice share a moment, with her being all excited. She says he's an interesting partner. When he returns to the association, the receptionist is happy, saying, yes, you're class E now. Congratulations, Kiyomi. He says, thank you. The woman thinks he's very cold and says that becoming class E deserves respect. Many people give up before reaching class E. She tells this to Kiyomi, who is already S-class. Suddenly, a group of 3 adventurers called the Revenants enters the association. They have menacing looks, and the receptionist explains they committed a crime at the association. Even the other adventurers are afraid of them. The receptionist says they need a leader for the Revenants, calling it a difficult task. Kiyomi says, leave it to me. The receptionist asks, are you serious? Everyone is afraid to take on this task. Kiyomi says, it's fine. He thinks this task will also bring him money, which is important because he wants to save his sister. He claims to know these so-called Revenants well. He thinks about how much he should get involved in this, maybe just enough to get some information and the money. The receptionist says, ah, I understand. She thanks him because he's helping her a lot and hands him a contract, saying, I'll leave this for you. In the next scene, we see an electric collar shocking one of the prisoners. A police officer demonstrates by putting one on the man's hand, saying it's an electric collar, and if they step out of line, just give them a shock. He thinks that even though they are prisoners, if they have talents, they can work as adventurers. He already has the bracelet to shock the prisoners. The officer warns, if they do anything suspicious, press the button. One guy says, hey, you know we have human rights? But the officer responds, shut up. Another prisoner asks, so, master, what's your name? He replies, Kaimiyaki, and this is the last conversation we'll have. They unlock the prisoner's cuffs. One of the prisoners says, it looks like our supervisor today is a bit more tolerant than the others. I'll check this out. Another says, okay, I'll leave it to you, Mr. Supervisor. They enter a dungeon that looks like it's on fire. They are literally entering the depths of hell, which is the name of the dungeon. It's a D-rank dungeon. The chubbier one says, wow, they gave us a really difficult task again. Don't you think they're being too cruel to us? The one in front says, I don't remember. He looks back, and our protagonist says, this person is also giving us an opportunity. Suddenly, the Revenants start glaring at our protagonist with an ugly look. He tries to press the bracelet button to shock them, but it doesn't work. He thinks, why isn't it working? But the guy simply grabs the collar and breaks it easily. They all do this effortlessly. Later, the guy says, oh, it was bad. I don't hold a grudge against you, but you're going to die here today. The system appears, initiating another emergency mission. This one is a bit more difficult than the usual ones, right? It simply says, defeat all your enemies. He thinks, oh, seriously. He realizes that the system missions are synchronizing with what he's doing, according to the context of his situation, because now he really needs to defeat all the enemies to get out of there alive and still complete his mission. But just as they are about to start the fight, what looks like a giant worm emerges from the lava. This monster is a D-rank flamecrawler. It's about to attack everyone at once, but heads toward the prisoner in front. The prisoner defeats the creature with a single punch, saying that even though he's D-rank, he's about to become C-rank. He thinks the guy's class is fighter, which is why he punched that way. He thinks, I can win this. The guy wastes no time and uses his skill, rushing toward our protagonist. All Kiyomi can do is dodge the punch, but the stone behind him shatters. He's impressed with the guy's strength. Meanwhile, another prisoner is digging for something and finds a stash. Inside, there's armor, an axe, and a hammer. Each of them equips one of these. The leader says that with this equipment, they are invincible. He thinks that if he could use his analysis, he would see the truth. The fighter class isn't compatible with any equipment. Kiyomi manages to block the guy's punch with his sword blade. Meanwhile, the armored guy charges at him. He realizes that this class has devastating power. He can defend himself with the sword, but because of the armor, the guy doesn't suffer any damage. He thinks fighters also have very high defense, which comes with restrictions. He says this while retreating. The fighter class has many disadvantages in proficiency. He thinks he has a chance to win here. He starts with the guy with the axe, trying to disarm him, but it doesn't work well. As he dodges the axe attack, Kiyomi gets hit on the head by the armored guy and falls to the ground. He thinks, as expected, fighting 3 people of a higher rank is very difficult, but he feels the difference in proficiency. He takes a deep breath, thinking, I can handle this. The guy with the knuckles says, this kid can actually fight. He tells the others, don't hesitate, let's go all out. The 3 of them use the fighter class's special skill, physical enchantment. At that exact moment, the system sends a message saying he has acquired a new skill. The guy with the axe yells, loser! It's like we're going to lose to a classless guy like you. But when he realizes what's happening, Kiyomi is already close, with the blade near his chest. The guy panics at the speed. Kiyomi calmly says, classless people learn quickly. The system announces that the skill he obtained is physical enchantment, just like the fighters. He uses his flaming blade on the guy's shoulder, causing a lot of blood. Kiyomi says, it's over. He thinks his proficiency helped him when he needed it. Now they are on equal footing. The armored guy gets very angry and charges at him again. Our protagonist revives with the divine dance. The guy is startled as Kiyomi rushes toward him. Despite this, he goes after Kiyomi, who is hiding behind a rock. The guy hits his head on the rock, thinking, how can a classless person use this skill? It's too late for him, as Kiyomi is already above, preparing another attack. He comes down with his sword, splitting the guy in 2. That's the second one. He thinks that with physical enchantment, his jump was very powerful. He says he found this skill very versatile. Meanwhile, the guy with the knuckles is already scared. He asks, what are you? Why is there such a powerful person here? He screams, this wasn't in our deal, Akira. The protagonist thinks, Akira? Suddenly, he feels a hand on his foot and realizes the bald guy is still alive. He only hit his shoulder. The bald guy says, I'm sure I'll be free one day. The protagonist thinks, this is bad. The guy with the knuckles takes advantage of the situation and punches him in the face, leaving him all bloody. He thinks, what a strong punch. I can't breathe. But when he remembers his younger sister, he regains all his strength. The oxygen flows back into his lungs just by remembering his sister, and the guys are scared of this. He gets up with the help of his sword and thinks, I can't lose here. He wipes the blood from his face and thinks, this time I'll save you. As he uses the physical enchantment to get very pumped up, he says, I'm sorry, but I have reasons not to give up here. Let's finish this. He starts slicing up the 2 fighters, who are now definitely dead. The system, to confirm this, announces that the emergency mission is complete. He will receive an item as a reward this time. He gets a small key, and the system asks if he wants to use it or not. He clicks no, saying he won't use it for now. After that, he drags the 3 bodies out of the portal. In fact, I'm not sure if they're dead now. They might not be dead, folks, but anyway, the police ask, what happened there? But when the protagonist puts the bodies on the ground, he collapses from exhaustion. The police start calling for emergency services and reinforcement. This cuts to a scene of a guy sitting on a couch with a beautiful view of a building in front of him. It looks like a blanket. He's talking to someone on the phone. He asks, what exactly went wrong there? The person replies, sorry, there was interference. He asks, interference? Who is this interference? The person provides the information, and it's Kaimiyaki. The guy asks, is this some kind of joke? The other person says no, the information is correct. He asks, an earring classless? Interesting. And we see that this guy is Akira, and he is a model and streamer. He says, you don't think you can get away with messing with my subordinate, do you? It turns out that his main job is being an S-rank adventurer. He is the founder of the Blood Serpent, the same clan that tried to recruit the protagonist earlier. Meanwhile, our protagonist at home isn't wasting any time. He's already doing more than 100 push-ups, counting 112, 113. He thinks that the wounds from the last fight haven't fully healed yet, but he still wonders who those guys were. They were tough opponents. He thinks, I also need to get stronger. I need to become someone who can't be defeated. Suddenly, he looks at the same key he hadn't used before. It's an adventurer's level 5 key. He sits on the bed with it, drying his sweat. He thinks, yes, I got this anyway. He opens the system screen again, and this time accept. A portal opens behind him out of nowhere, and he is sucked into it. When he teleports, he falls flat on his face, but at least he lands on sand, so it's not too bad. When he realizes it's sand, he looks up to see where he is. He finds himself in a vast desert with a blazing sun overhead. The system notifies him that this is a dungeon called the Solar Stone Labyrinth. He's shocked to be in a dungeon, as he wasn't prepared for this, especially being thrown into the middle of a desert. His biggest concern at the moment is that his clothes are full of sand. He walked through the desert for a long time. It's very hot, and he's already sweating profusely. He thinks that no monsters have appeared so far and wonders why. Suddenly, he steps on something and manages to unearth a magic stone from the sand. He thinks, a magic stone? No, it can't be. Is this a mining dungeon? He says it's an extremely rare type of dungeon and realizes it too late. He keeps saying that in these mining dungeons, you can obtain various very rare magic stones. He's looking for one in particular. After digging a lot and unearthing many magic stones, his hands are already bleeding from digging so much. Finally, something catches his attention. He says, got it, I found it. It's a lunar magic stone. He says, there really was one here. He hugs the stone to his chest, saying this could help with Natsu's illness. He never imagined that a system reward would lead him to find this stone. He explains that Natsu's illness is considered a magical vortex and that there's only one way to cure it. It's by making medicine with this lunar magic stone. Holding the stone, he thinks he needs 9 more. He needs 10 in total. He thinks he'll need a lot more of them. He starts digging desperately in the sand again. After a long time, his hands are bleeding heavily, but he can't find any more. Suddenly, the system notifies him that his time is up and the dungeon will close now. He thinks, no way. When the portal opens behind him, he desperately tries to dig more, but as the portal pulls him in, he says it's still not enough. He is thrown back into his room again. He bangs on the wall, begging to be thrown back in. He smears blood all over the wall. This is because it's still not enough for him. Then he lies on the bed more calmly and realizes that after so much digging, he only found one of those stones. He thinks he needs to be in a mining dungeon again, even if the mission is extremely difficult. He will take any mission just to find another mining dungeon, no matter how many times it takes. Suddenly, he feels something on his back, something bothering him. He realizes he had another stone stuck to him, and he says, oh, I brought this back too. He realizes he only brought these 2, the rest were useless magic stones. He picks up the stone that looks like amber with a mosquito inside and says, should I take this to a specialist? When he goes to take a hot bath, he feels a lot of pain. His hands are burning badly. The next day, early in the morning, he goes to the hospital. He knocks on the door. Natsu. The nurse thinks he brought something new today. She's very happy to see him, obviously. He says he has a present for her today. He shows her a necklace with a lunar stone, which is a kind of salvation for her, right? She says, I think I don't need this, brother. He asks, why? She says, it's a bit tacky, sorry. He is completely shocked by this. He says, okay, I'll go back to work. He asks, you really don't want it? She says, okay, it's fine, good luck at work. He leaves, very sad, and puts the necklace on himself. The nurse asks, did he get the present for himself again? After that, he goes to the analysis department. He's there looking for a stone inspector. We see a guy with a very, iconic appearance, right? The guy says, yes, I'm a stone inspector. The protagonist thinks, this guy is very suspicious. The guy says, I may not look it, but I'm very good at what I do. The protagonist thinks, now he's reading my thought. The guy immediately notices the rare lunar stone necklace and says it's very valuable, but the protagonist says he's here for the other stone. He puts the amber stone with the mosquito inside on the table. The guy starts analyzing it and says, my friend, this product is extraordinary. When he says a product is extraordinary, Kiyomi asks, how is it so extraordinary? The evaluator responds that it's a magic stone that can add magical effects to weapons. The protagonist thinks, so it's an enchantment stone, right? He starts recalling his past life when he couldn't get any good stones. You can even see it in his eyes as he remembers. The guy notices that he stopped to reflect and says, you thought these things weren't that rare, huh? This specific magic stone is called the amber magic stone. The mosquito inside it is a monster called Shirgui. The guy says, don't underestimate it. When you enchant your weapons with this stone, do you know what happens? The man gets all excited and says, you won't need to work anymore. Kyomen stops, looking puzzled. The man asks, hey, aren't you interested? Isn't it amazing? You won't need to work. Kyomen remains reflective. What do you mean by that? The man explains that the Shirgui absorbs the souls of the monsters it consumes and make them its subordinates. In other words, the creature is a necromancer, or you'll acquire the same ability as Shirgui imbued with it. We won't know until we try. Kyomen thinks to himself, okay, this sounds very exciting. He asks, can you enchant the sword? The man responds, yes, leave it to me. At the end of the process, he says, it's ready. We see that the demonic bite, the protagonist's sword, is now imbued with something glowing even brighter. The man says, you should check its new effects yourself. Kyomen thinks, alright, if that's the case, I'll test it somewhere. He heads to the training field summoning room. He meets the attendant to read his bracelet. She notices, ranky and classless? Ah, that's so weak. She begins the summoning, saying, this should be enough. A large summoning symbol appears on the ground with a star in the middle, and a cute little ball with 2 demon horns emerges. This creature is called Sweet Pom-Pom, a rank E. The creature does nothing but float toward Kiyomi. Suddenly, this cute pom-pom opens its mouth and tries to devour Kiyomi with its teeth, but he doesn't back down, confident he knows this monster well. He simply slices the pom-pom in half and notices the stone taking effect as an aura starts emanating from his sword, and the soul of the monster begins to surround the protagonist. In the end, it seems like Kiyomi absorbed the soul. The attendant is impressed because she thought he was weak. Another system screen appears, saying, absorbed 1 magic defense point. Kiyomi looks and thinks, hey, my stats increased. He realizes his magic defense defense is no longer 260 but 261. The attendant asks, what was that just now? Kiyomi says, oh, don't worry about it. He adds, but more importantly, how can a national summoner summon such weak monsters? The girl feels the provocation and says, then I'll pit you against them until you cry for help. Suddenly, another client arrives and asks, can I join in? It's a blonde guy with a woman beside him, who says, nice to meet you. The woman starts to say, this time is reserved for Kiyomi. Please wait a moment, but the guy shows a card and says, with this, can we do a mass summoning? He asks Kiyomi, if you join us, it's fine, right? Kiyomi think, a mass summoning? The summoner is excited, wow, I hit the jackpot. Yay! VIP client. Kiyomi thinks, I don't care. Actually, I'm very grateful for this. The summoner says, if what you told me is true, and she analyzes the two chips. If it's against a class E and a class D, I think it's a good reason to summon this monster. Again, we see the summoning circle with a star in the middle. But this time, she performs a mass summoning, bringing forth several goblins. Kiyomi think, wow, how many? The other guy says, what do you expect from our national summoner? He asks Kiyomi, what's your class? Kiyomi replies, classless. Naturally, everyone laughs. The guy and the woman both laugh. The guy says, sorry for bringing you here. I don't need apologies. He grabs his weapons and says, let's do this together. He and his companion start taking down the goblins. One goblin charges at him first, but he defends himself with his two knives. He then throws himself to the ground and stabs the goblin. He finishes off the goblin on the ground with his knife and says, I've got one here. The woman says, same here. The guy says, alright, let's move to the next. But when he looks around, he sees all the goblins are already dead. Kiyomi is standing there with his sword amid the massacre. He says, I took care of this side. The guy asks, what? All of them? Kiyomi replies, yes, all of them. He thinks, mass summoning is very expensive. See you around. Kiyomi leaves, following the stone he dropped earlier. The summoner stops him, asking, those moves you just made, are you really a classless A rank? That's impossible. So, who are you? He simply responds, I'm just classless. She gets impatient. Our protagonist likes to provoke the women, right? The woman turns and says, come back anytime. Next time, I'll summon stronger monsters for you. Kiyomi thanks her and says, yes, I would be very grateful for that. Reflecting, he thinks he gained 3 points after defeating 42 goblins. It seems he won't always be able to absorb. We see Kiyomi in the shower, reflecting. He thinks, but the more I fight, the stronger I get. It's truly a lethal weapon. It turns out he wasn't at home. He was using the training field shower. As he exits, he sees several people running. A man on the ground asks, are you also an adventurer? Kiyomi replies, yes. The man says, thank God. There's been an overflow. All available adventurers are needed. Kiyomi thinks it's a dungeon overflow, a disaster causing monsters to spill out of dungeons and invade the human world. Suddenly, another emergency mission appears for him. He thinks, okay, here we go. While everyone is running, making calls, desperate, he thinks he can now expect exclusive rewards. That's why he likes emergency mission. While everyone else is panicking, he calmly faces the emergency mission. The system indicates that his mission is to eradicate the cause of the overflow. He thinks, the cause? I thought an overflow was a natural disaster, not something that happens by chance. The same guy who was talking to him earlier says, hey, what's wrong? Let's go. He replies, got it, and starts packing his backpack. The guy insists, no, let's go. But the protagonist is meticulously folding his things and putting everything neatly. We see that the disaster occurred in Shibuya. Yes, Shibuya, which often faces many disasters, right? There are people running desperately with goblins chasing them. As everyone runs, a woman falls, and a goblin pounces on her. But before the goblin can attack, its brain is pierced by Kiyomi's demonic bite. The woman, shocked by how quickly it happened, starts crying and runs away in fear. Kiyomi gets serious as we see complete chaos in the city. Two adventurers are trying to fight but are being thrown aside. Magic, he says. Be careful. This enemy is formidable. From the shadows, only red eyes are visible. We see it's a D-rank hobgoblin, armed with better armor and a sword than normal goblin. The adventurers start shouting, what do you mean? It's impossible. A hobgoblin here? One of them says, I don't want to die, and runs away, leaving one poor soul behind. Meanwhile, Kiyomi is just observing the situation. He says, if you want to go, go. Staying will only slow me down. The guy asks, who are you? Kiyomi replies, E-rank adventurer, Kiyomi Aki, classless. The guy is completely shocked. He thinks, if I stay, it will only delay my part. Then the hobgoblin throws a car at him. The guy stands there like an idiot, so Kiyomi has to push him to the ground to save him, dodging the car as well. The hobgoblin starts laughing and dancing. Kiyomi thinks, hobgoblins have a lot of strength. They are physically stronger but quite stupid. Kiyomi says, we have a long way to go. Let's finish this guy quickly. The other guy agrees, sure. Kiyomi says, I'll distract him, and runs very fast. The guy initially thinks Kiyomi is abandoning him, but realizes it's part of the plan when the hobgoblin stupidly chases Kiyomi. Taking advantage of the opening Kiyomi created, the guy stabs the hobgoblin in the back with his sword. However, the hobgoblin doesn't die immediately and prepares to strike back. Our protagonist then stabs it completely with the demonic bite, finishing finishing it off. Kiyomi says to the guy, "Good job." The system announces he absorbed 1 attack point. Kiyomi extends a hand to the adventurer and asks, "Hey, can you still fight?" We notice that Kiyomi's hand is covered in bandages and wounds. The guy looks at Kiyomi and thinks, "Yes, I can fight. I can't lose to these younger ones." It's clear the guy is older. When he helps the man up, he feels a strong vibration in the city. High-ranking adventurers arrive, and the guy says, "Ah, thank God, we managed to buy some time." The guy tells Kiyomi, "Mr. Kiyomi, our job as E-rank is to protect civilians. Let the higher-ranked adventurers handle the monsters." Kiyomi replies, "Got it," and starts to leave. The man thinks, "You definitely didn't understand." As he runs, the guy asks, "Where are you going?" But our protagonist knows what he's doing. He heads to the crowded dungeon. It's a mid-level dungeon. The guy follows him, exhausted. Kiyomi asks, "Why did you follow me? Why are you trying to go alone to this dangerous place?" Kiyomi says, "You're a good person, but..." And the man interrupts, "Are you an idiot? Even if you're very strong, Mr. Kiyomi, it's too dangerous to go there alone, right?" Kiyomi replies, "It's dangerous for me too, but I will definitely return home today and have a drink. Let's make sure no one dies here." The guy asks, "So why are you here without evacuating?" Kiyomi says, "To eradicate the cause of the overflow." The guy is confused, but isn't an overflow a natural cause? Kiyomi says, "Well, let's find out if it's true or not." The guy claims, "Hey, hey, 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 hey," but Kiyomi is already reaching into the portal. Suddenly, lightning bolts start shooting out from the portal, hitting them both. Kiyomi, bearing the brunt of the charge, thinks, "Is it connected to my lunar stone?" A blinding flash throws them back. The guy asks, "Are you okay?" Something emerges from the portal. It looks like a tentacle, followed by a small dragon with a big smile. It resembles a dragon with the same symbol as the one our protagonist faced earlier. It's Echo of Kuruken. We know the previous dragon was Kukuken, and now it's Kuruken. Manhwas have this thing, folks, translations change over time, but it's the same dragon that our protagonist faced at the beginning. Echo says, "Ah, I wonder how I was found." Kiyomi is shocked to see an emblem. He says, "It's a Kuruken emblem." Echo asks, "How do you know?" He starts transforming, acquiring the same armor appearance as Kuroken, but in a different form. He says, "I think you should die now." The other guy behind him is trembling, terrified, but Kiyomi simply points his sword and faces the creature. Kuroken doesn't waste any time and prepares an attack. Kiyomi notices the same weakness, that same symbol on the neck. Kuroken spits a laser beam. I know it's not the original Kuroken, it's the Echo of Kuroken, but I'll keep calling it Kuroken because it's easier. Kiyomi jumps to save the other guy with him. They both fall to the ground, dodging the laser, but he notices the guy's sword was hit. He thinks it's rusted. No, it's deteriorating due to time. Apparently, this laser accelerates time. Kuroken is preparing another attack. Kiyomi thinks it's very dangerous to be hit by that. The guy says, "Leave me behind, I'll only slow you down." Kiyomi replies, "Hey, weren't we going to have a drink together?" The guy gets encouraged, "Ah, Kiyomi," but Kuroken launches another attack at them, and they manage to dodge it. The guy says, "Yes, let's have sake." Kiyomi replies, "I can't yet, I'm underage." Kiyomi grabs his sword to face Kurokansas. The guy says, "Hey, don't be stupid, man." But as he faces this large dragon, which is a smaller version of Kurokan, he thinks, "I've faced enemies with breath attacks before." Kurokan says, "Do you think you can win?" This time, without charging anything, Kurokan goes for a bite. Kiyomi wasn't expecting this, but manages to dodge, just barely, getting scratched on the face. He takes advantage of the opening to plant his feet firmly and attack its skin, but it doesn't work. The sword even bounces back. Kiyomi thinks, yes, as expected, it's very tough. Meanwhile, Kurokan is already positioning for another attack, preparing another laser in its mouth. Kiyomi thinks dragons never burn their own throats with their fire breath. There's a magic point at the base of the throat. It causes the dragon to release its breath with this stored magic. He thinks, I have to reach that point. He prepares and uses body strengthening to get pumped again. He also performs a divine dance split on Kurokan. Even Kurokan didn't expect this, taking the full attack to the neck. Kurokan thinks, defeated? Me? It speaks incorrectly. Okay folks, I'm not translating it wrong, it actually speaks incorrectly. As Kiyomi runs towards Kurokan with his sword, he thinks it requires a lot of mana to unleash the dragon's breath. He believes now that he has all the resources, it's time to attack. Even though Kurokan's skin is tough, he keeps hitting and hitting until it cracks. Finally, there's a point that breaks and exposes its flesh. At that moment, he makes a vertical cut, slicing and drawing blood from Kurokan. Kurokan screams in pain, but Kiyomi is hit by an unexpected attack, slapped by Kurokan and thrown away. As he tries to recover, Kurokan charges at him to bite him. When Kiyomi realizes it, Kurokan is already close, but the other adventurer comes running, putting his shield in front of Kurokan. He manages to block Kurokan, holding him back with great effort. He asks, "Are you okay? This is all I can do to help you." Kiyomi gives him a grateful smile and says, "That's enough." Suddenly, Kurokan collapses, hitting its head on the ground. The other adventurer wonders, what happened? Kiyomi shows the poison blade of the demonic bite. He says he learned this skill from the macabre goblin they defeated earlier. Meanwhile, the beast trembles, lying messed up on the ground. As it says its last words in Kurokan's language, they remain remain unknown. Kiyomi mercilessly finishes off the beast. The system indicates he absorbed 1 defense point and leveled up to 7. We see Kuro-kan's head being severed, and it seems the emergency mission is complete. This time, the reward is an item. He extends his hand to receive it, and it's the same adventurer's key. He thinks to himself, yes, Kuro-kan, it seems we'll fight again. The guy asks, what's that in your hand? Kiyomi simply stops to clean his sword. He apologizes for asking so much from his benefactor. The guy, pulling a large stick, hugs him. It seems the man doesn't enjoy it, but deep down, he smiles. Suddenly, other people appear, including a man in a suit with 2 adventurers behind him. The man asks, did you do this? Kiyomi says, no, actually, this guy here did it. The man examines Kiyomi's profile. Kiyomi Aki, classless, rank E. He says, Kiyomi Aki, I'll remember you. He notes that the overflow has disappeared and the portal is destabilizing. He asks Kiyomi, do you know the reason? Kiyomi thinks he doesn't want to answer, but it will be hard to stay quiet. He responds that the portal turned malevolent when he defeated the dragon. The man says, interesting. The overflow was considered a natural disaster, but what if it wasn't? Actually, Kiyomi says, I can only answer what I saw. The man places a hand on the other adventurer's shoulder, calling him to leave. They walk away together. The man says, shall we? The adventurer who was with Kiyomi pulls a knife and says, I can get information from him, but I'll want a reward. The man says, no, that's enough. I'll be friendly with him. He looks at his watch, thinking of his sick sister. One of the people says, hey, do you think he'll join us too? The woman replies, you're going to trick him with money? The man in front says, scary, adults are scary. He starts saying, we need more strength in numbers. A great battle will happen soon, and Kumiyaki might be our trump card. He receives a call and says, it's you. Yes, of course, I was planning to bring you as well. I'm counting on you. We see Akira, who has been plotting against our protagonist from the beginning, is also involved. He says, I'm counting on you, Babazono. Meanwhile, Kiyomi seems to be organizing some gardening tools. As he packs everything into a bag, he receives a notification on his phone. It reads, we are pleased to announce that we have promoted you to rank D, thanks to all your recent achievements. Kiyomi thinks, yes, level 7, class D, I'm doing great. Suddenly, another notification arrives on his phone. It's from Natsu, and she says, wow, you're famous, big brother. She sends a link to the website, news.adventurer.com. Kiyomi thinks, is this a news article? The article highlights some novice adventurers, including Kiyomi, who is classless, and Naomi, the infinite healer, the same woman he met earlier. He thinks, yes, she's doing well too. Natsu asks, big brother, you don't have a class? That's cool. He replies, typing, I'm not just classless, I have a reason for it. He grabs a shovel, slings it over his shoulder, takes his backpack, and the bag full of gardening tools, saying, okay, now I'm ready. In reality, he's taking all this to help Naomi because he's about to use the adventurer's key. He hopes to end up in another mining dungeon, but the system warns him, be careful. This key is likely for high-ranking adventurers. Your level might not be sufficient. Do you still want to use it? He looks at the system screen, but is determined. He says yes, and the system responds, good choice. Welcome. Once again, a portal appears in front of him, sucking him in as if he's melting. This time, he appears inside a city, more specifically, inside a castle. He stands there with his shovel, facing an elf sitting on a throne, who looks like a king. The system informs him that this is an A-rank dungeon, the world of elves. Kiyomi thinks, a throne? Isn't this supposed to be a dungeon? The elf, who looks like a king, says, you are guided by the desire of the god. What is your name? Kiyomi thinks, desire of the gods? This sounds like a quest. He replies, Kiyomi Aki. I came here just to find the lunar stone. The elf says, I understand. To treat the magical vortex, right? Kiyomi is impressed that he knows about the illness. The elf continues, an alchemist can prepare it for you, but the lunar stone is also a very valuable resource for us. Kiyomi thinks, I know, you want to make me do something ridiculous, right? The elf says, you are smart. The desire of the gods seems to have sent a good adventurer. Suddenly, another elf appears, calling for the majesty. The elf king asks what it is. The elf whispers something in the king's ear. The king says, what? He has no class? Warriors start approaching Kiyomi. The king asks, was there a mistake in the evaluation? Kiyomi asks, do you have a problem with that? The king responds, no, the desire of the gods is never wrong. But he says this with a hint of concern. The king says, your task is to duel with the great sinner. Kiyomi thinks, a duel? The king continues, his sin was killing all his relatives. A horrifying scene with many dead people and a lot of fire everywhere flashes before Kiyomi's eyes. A man holding a dead woman asks, why are you doing this? The sinner replies, I have no reason. I'm just using my power because I have it. We see the elf's appearance. He's very skinny but has a crazy look. His power is so strong that he creates a storm in the sky, raining meteors on other elves. The king says that killing one's own blood is strictly forbidden. This is a sacred law of the elves. The king says. Kiyomi thinks, is that why you're asking a stranger? The king confirms, exactly. If you accept, I will provide the reward you desire. Kiyomi smiles and says, we have a deal, extending his hand. The king rises and shakes Kiyomi's hand. The duel will take place tomorrow. Until then, you are free to explore the the city, the king says. Kiyomi repeats, the city? We see it's a bustling place, and fortunately, he teleported there in the morning, as the sun is very bright and everything looks beautiful. Kiyomi remarks that this is the world of the elves, and this is the civilian city. An elf in an apron dress says, welcome, I'll guide you around. Kiyomi thinks, this is very unexpected. Is this really a dungeon? She confirms, yes, but it's a special place. It's been 10 years since a foreigner last came here. The fruits in the area look very strange. He asks, what happened to the last person who came here? The woman smiles and says, he died. Kiyomi responds, oh, I see. He finds her casual mention of something so scary quite unsettling. Suddenly, they hear clapping in the town square. The woman says, look, there's an event. Shall we get a bit closer? They see a square with a fountain in the middle, where some people are gathering for a performance by another elf. Kiyomi says, why not? The elf performer says, please, come closer. I'll show you an interesting magic, and begins enchanting a fire spell, shooting a fireball into the sky. Everyone is very impressed as it explodes in the sky. Kiyomi thinks, this is very powerful for just a fireball. The magician talks to the other elves, explaining that this is a magic that temporarily enchants their other spells and abilities. The woman says, because, dear, this magic was recently invented. The system notifies him that he has copied this skill, acquiring a new ability called skill enchantment. He thinks, this seems like a very useful ability. It's a good start. As night falls, the woman says, that's all for today. He replies, if I have more time, I'll take another look. She responds, yes, you really should, but only if you survive tomorrow. He jokes, what I'm up against is pretty ugly. They part ways later. The scene cuts to the next day. He is passing through a tunnel. When he exits the tunnel, he finds himself in an arena with staff and spectators present. He sees his opponent approaching and looks much more enthusiastic than expected. This is a bit different from what I was told, right? Kiyomi asks his guard, if I kill this guy, I'll be free, right? He starts casting a spell, and a large magic symbol emanates from his hand. Eternal Aurora. The sky begins to darken, like a storm. Kiyomi thinks, did he change the weather? The madman says, a festival needs to be grand, and a great magic will be nourishment for its growth. He continues with his psychopathic expression, admiring the rain he caused. He uses the rain to cast a water spell, Aqua Nevalerio. The protagonist is surrounded by 2 streams of water, and it starts raining heavily on him. Kiyomi thinks, what is this? It's raining only on me. The rain is so heavy he can barely lift his sword. The elf continues casting spells. He uses one that looks like sludge on the ground, which targets the protagonist's feet, forming mud that makes him sink. Kiyomi thinks, damn, an unknown magic, but he manages to stand firm, and the audience goes wild. His grandfather's voice echoes in his mind, what's wrong with me, man? This is just the opening. Ah, you fool. You felt drawn to being here. You were deceived. Meanwhile, the king is talking. Yes, I know this is a lot for a mere human, but it doesn't matter much. It's not like one of us is dying. Kiyomi struggles to stay in the mud. He thinks to himself, if I don't do something now, I won't have a chance later. He uses his physical enhancement. Besides physical enhancement, he uses skill enchantment, making himself much stronger, enough to pull himself out of the mud with his arms. Strength. Even the elf is impressed by this. He thinks, good, I managed to use this ability. Now I can move much better. He uses the divine dance, but his rage is interrupted by something. A pillar of ice forms in front of him. The elf says, yes, humans can't get this far. Kiyomi starts feeling a cold mist around his feet, but the system grants him a new passive ability called Ice Store Guard, giving him resistance to the cold. With this, he holds up well. However, the elf is preparing another ability. The elf says, you should know the difference between our levels. Crystallize emeries. He creates several icy rain crystals. When the rain hits the ground, there is a huge explosion of ice. The audience is impressed by this magic, and a large ice crystal forms in the middle of the arena. Ellsworth says, too easy. He adds, with this, I clear myself of all accusations, right, Majesty? The king looks a bit concerned, but that ice crystal behind him suddenly explodes. Everyone stops to see, shocked. We see the protagonist's flaming sword cutting through the ice. He emerges from there, annoyed. The elf says, look, you can withstand this. The protagonist thinks, okay, he's not that powerful. The elf adds, this is getting interesting. Shall I increase the power? The protagonist wonders if the elf can get even stronger. I can't take this anymore. There's no way to counter this. I need information on how to fight against elves. He remembers his past life. A group mentioned they encountered a foolish elf in a dungeon. The guy's hair caught fire from his own magic, but he didn't panic. Then the protagonist realizes something. He looks at the other elves in the stands, who are still celebrating the battle. Another elf remarked, isn't it a bit dangerous now to look the other way? But Kiyomi rushes in quickly. He uses body strengthening, bringing his blade so close to the elf that it cuts some of his hair. The elf does a backflip, evading him, but his hair falls. The elf is shocked as his hair is completely cut, and everyone is just as stunned as the elf. The protagonist holds the elf's hair and says, elves can enchant people with their hair, right? As he says this, the sky clears. Kiyomi advances with his sword and says, this is your end. The elf retorts, you mere human, but his magic doesn't work. He thinks, my power. The protagonist finishes him off, slashing his chest. The system announces he has absorbed 10 magic points. The king proclaims, "Your crime of killing your own kin has been judged. Blessed be the adventurer guided by the god's will." Everyone celebrates, throwing roses and scattering rose petals. The king congratulates Kiyomi on his mission and shakes his hand. The king then carefully asks Kiyomi, "How did you discover the secret of our hair?" Kiyomi remains silent. The king says, "So you won't tell? Fine, it's your secret. I'll add this to your reward as well." The system informs him that he has received an abyssal magic stone as a reward, and it looks like a golden cube with a labyrinth design on it. I thought, is this the magic stone of the final dungeon, the abyss? The king asks, "How do you know that?" Anyway, it doesn't matter. If you show this to the enchanter, he will show you how to use it, but I will fulfill my promise. Here is the promised lunar magic stone. The protagonist is very happy with this bag of lunar stones, and to reward your service, I will tell you one more thing. A lunar magic stone can be created. Kiyomi thinks, "Created?" He asks, "Please, tell me more about it." But then the dungeon portal appears behind him. The king says, "Until we meet again, adventurer. We will meet again if that is the will of the god." He returns to his room, thinking about creating lunar stones and extinguishing the magical vortex in this world. One of the lunar stones falls out of the bag. Suddenly, the next scene is a meeting. Babazon arrives and says, "Sorry for the delay, let's start." Another guy asks, "Is he already here?" He replies, "Yes." But when Babazon starts the transmission, the protagonist is flexing his abs in front of the camera, showing off his muscular back. Babazon is a bit shocked, but the women are paying close attention. Babazon on the phone says, "Kiyomi, Kiyomi." Kiyomi snaps back to attention. Babazon says, "Ahem, can you put on some clothes?" Kiyomi says, "Ah, sorry, I didn't think it would start now, so I got a bit bored." "So, what's the meeting about?" Babazon says, "I want to recommend you for a certain job." Kiyomi replies, "Recommend?" Babazon says, "Yes, we are gathering powerful adventurers for a big job that's coming up. And with Alice's suggestion, we really want you in on this." Kiyomi thinks, "Ah, Alice, alright, then you can talk to me more." Babazon responds, "What I'm going to say now is confidential. Make sure this doesn't leak." They launch a file for transmission, showing graph. "What is this about?" Kiyomi asks. "This is a chart about the number of adventurer deaths. It seems the number that has risen the most is adventurers attacking other adventurers. It's hard to believe, but it's true. This also includes accidents during fights. But specifically, what I'm referring to is," Kiyomi interrupts, "killing other players, right?" Babazon says, "I'm surprised you know. This information isn't public yet." Kiyomi responds, "I heard some rumors about it." Meanwhile, he's thinking, "In my past life, if you see this, only then do you think, in this timeline, I have to end them?" Babazon says, rumors. "Sure, this organization that kills other players is falling into our trap. So, you'll gather all of them in the same stage you did, right?" Babazon says, I'm glad you understand quickly. It's a dangerous secret mission, but the rewards will be equivalent to the danger, and your reputation will also grow. Besides, it seems you're spending a lot on medical expenses." Kiyomi thinks, he knows about my sister's situation. "Okay, no problem, I'll take on this mission. Just send me the plan. I need to prepare first." Babazon responds, "I expect great things from you. Here is the plan." Kiyomi receives a notification on his phone. "Considering your skill level and the information we have on this organization, we are appointing Akira as the leader of this mission." And folk, the name Akira is Babazon. I was calling this other guy Babazon, but no, the speech was from this guy to Babazon. It was kind of weird, right? Sorry for those errors in the manual, but I'm also reading in English, and it was very misunderstood, to be honest. But okay, we still don't know the name of this old man. Apparently, Babazon is Akira. The scene shifts to Akira facing a creature inside a dungeon. He says, "Is everyone watching?" while a guy with a microphone and a cameraman in the background look like they're producing a series. Akira says, "This is a level B monster, but if you know how to counter it, we can defeat it easily." The creature slams its trunk on the ground, but when it realizes it, the creature is no longer there. Akira climbs onto the creature's head and says, "The weak point is right on top of its head." He makes a cut right there. The creature falls apart, chopped into pieces. "You see? It's easy." Meanwhile, girls are commenting on his live stream, "Oh my god, he's so cool." When the production team is near the portal, after he exits the dungeon, many fans are already following him. He thanks everyone, saying, "I love you all." But once inside the car, he completely changes. He says, "Jesus, being an idol to these peasants is not easy." But then another person says, "Please, mind your words. We received a message." Akira asks, "The bloody serpent?" The message reads, "The officials have fallen into our trap. Everything is going according to plan. Just enjoy the rest." He says, splendid." He fiddles with his phone. "I want to see the manifestation those officers gathered." His attention is drawn to one of the participants, who happens to be our protagonist. He asks, "Was Akio the adventurer who defeated the Revenant?" They confirm it for him. "Kayamiyaki, we'll see each other in the red dungeon, right?" He gives a psychopathic smile. In the next scene, we see Kiyomi with yellow roses. The nurse says, "Oh, they're yellow today." He opens the door, saying, "Natsu." She replies, "Hey, big brother." She says, "What beautiful flowers." He says, "Yes, and I also brought good news. We are close to curing your disease." She says, "What?" But the doctor said said there is no cure for my disease. Natsu, it's okay. She replies, yes, I believe in you, big brother. The nurse is also excited on the outside, but then she shows her flower book and says, but the meaning of yellow roses is love fading away. The protagonist is completely shocked. He leaves, all sad, with his yellow roses. The nurse remarks, ah, so he's that kind of person, right? And again, in the hospital courtyard, he receives another call. It's Alice, and she says, ah, hey there. He replies, yes, they told me about the job. She says, yes, I'm glad you accepted. I can't go this time, but I'm sure there are skilled people with you, especially Babazono Akira and Ichino Zaru. Those two are very strong. Kiyomi responds, yes, it seems so. He looks at Akira's card, which says he is an S-rank assassin. He thinks, an assassin? Alice suddenly says, what did you think of the meeting after the dungeon? Huh? He replies, a meeting? Yes, a meeting. You're the most talented person I've met recently, and I want to get to know you better. He hesitates, I'll think about it. Alice says, you're having a tough time, huh? Oh, how cute. I'm looking forward to it. After hanging up, he thinks, confirmed date? Then we return to the old man who is not Babazono, and he addresses everyone who has gathered there. We see several adventurers in front of him. The dark group of players who kill others will end today. This will be a tough job, but I know you can do it. I've appointed him as the leader of our mission. Akira introduces himself. He is an S-rank adventurer and an assassin. He says, as your leader, I will do my best to guide you all. Let's complete this mission together. He motivates the crowd, and people are happy. As an adventurer, he's a good actor. Suddenly, a person approaches Kyo and asks, are you Kyo Miyaki? He responds, and who are you? Oh, you must have heard of me from Alice. I am Aichi Inos Iru, Alice's disciple. Aichi Inos Iru is an A-rank adventurer and an archer. Iru says, it seems you're her favorite now, but I won't lose to you. Kyumi doesn't really care. A masked guy appears and says, that's enough. She introduces him as Shirota Taiki. Shirota is also an A-rank adventurer, and his class is a poison alchemist. Iru says, he's my partner. She turns with a bit of jealousy, saying, I don't know how Alice chose such a low-level adventurer. He has the skill, but that's it. Don't act like you know everything and have all the power here. Kyumi just thinks, she's so loud. Suddenly, the system notifies him of a mission. The mission is to steal Akira's smartphone. Kyumi thinks, what kind of mission is this? He sees Akira in front of him, who still bids him farewell with that psychopathic look. The next scene shows a sort of tutorial. A mascot appears, a knight in armor the size of a cute thumb, saying, hello, I will explain today's operation. Inside the dungeon, there will be a group of novices serving as whiskas who will receive leader training. By the way, this is a confidential mission. They are unaware of today's operation. The Bloody Serpent and its team of assassins will fall into the trap and try to ambush the ISK. And we, the elimination squad, will jump in at that moment and consequently annihilate them. That's it. You should see what a man with a tablet and headphones sees in the tutorial. And with that, we conclude our briefing. I wish everyone good luck. We see Kyumi inside a plane heading for the mission. There are some people in the plane corridor saying, I'm so nervous. Someone else says, relax, man, I'm here with you. Kiyomi is strictly watching Akira. He has been nice to everyone since boarding the plane. He hasn't had the chance to steal his phone yet. Suddenly, Eru, who is in the seat behind, pops her head to talk to Kiyomi. She says, are you really a classless person? He replies, yes, I am. She asks, are you a fan of his? He says, yes, you could say that. Eru says, you're lying. What makes you think that? You're looking at the direction of his foot, waiting for him to make an opening in his guard. Am I wrong? Then she says, yes, archers are good at following glances. What are you planning? I can help you. I was also recommended by Alice. They finally arrive at the airport. Someone bumps into Akira's seat. It was Eru who bumped into him. She says, I'm sorry. Akira asks, are you alright? She replies, oh, I'm just like that. Meanwhile, the protagonist, doing the pickpocket trick, grabs Akira's phone. This isn't even the protagonist's work as a pickpocket, right? Eru says, are you alright, Akira? I'm a big fan of yours. Meanwhile, Kiyomi thinks, I never thought my experience as an assassin in my past life would be useful here. The system announces that the mission is complete. We see the protagonist holding Akira's phone. The rewards are given now. A new skill acquired, Cat's Paw. Meanwhile, Eru continues to distract Akira. Oh, I'm so happy to meet you. Kiyomi admits it's really impressive in many strange ways. Akira's phone suddenly receives a notification. When Kiyomi looks at it and pays close attention, he thinks, so that's how it is. They finally arrive at the dungeon where they will set the trap. It's in a forest surrounded by various animals. A limousine approaches, scaring away all the animals. Agents begin to get out. The older man, who seems to be the head of the entire operation, says, if the intelligence is correct, they should be just ahead. Feel free to finish them however you like. Let's get rid of this evil now. Everyone starts saying, yeah, let's go. Meanwhile, the groups head toward the dungeon, chatting a bit. Then we see some adventurers collecting the empty breakfast boxes. Iru thinks, so that's why we skip breakfast together? Moreover, don't ask me. I didn't understand that part of the story. I swear I didn't. Then she said, I'm starting to think I should begin doing this kind of work. Akira puts his hand on her shoulder and says, it's okay, I'll take care of it. of it. She gets so embarrassed when he touches her, but then she composes herself and says, huh, acting all cool like that when you don't even have a class. Are the classless the strongest? Akira is motivating everyone, saying, I'll protect everyone's back. Everyone cheers, let's go, let's go. But Kumi and Eru notice Akira's true expression, and Eru realizes he's very sadistic, to be honest. Kumi motivates her, saying, stay calm, you're very capable of doing this. He steps in front of her. Eru thinks to herself, yes, I think I understand a bit now why Alice values you so much. They enter an E-rank dungeon called the Ancient City Dungeon. As they walk, someone says, we're almost there. Suddenly, they see an explosion. They realize this group is the bait group, and their path is blocked by a tree. Finally, the villains appear, the player assassin. The leader of the bait group asks, who are you? The assassins cast a spell on him, throwing him backward with force. The others are obviously scared. The guy with the knife says, yes, let's have some fun now. Akira says, it's time, and his group approaches. The leader says, we're an extermination squad. We won't let any player assassins pass here. Akira winks at the other group, saying, sorry to keep you waiting. Everyone says, yes, Akira is here. We're safe now. Suddenly, they all feel a sharp pain and collapse, as if they fainted. Everyone is obviously surprised, but this was the work of the assassin group. And of course, Akira was on the side of the assassin. Look at that psychopathic face of his. You can't trust a guy like that. He starts laughing along with the other assassin. The guy from his team, who is on the ground, asks, what's going on, Akira? He replies, evil is all the weak deserve. He stands up to kick the guy, striking him in the head. As an S-rank adventurer, influencer, and very popular figure, you fell into my trap without knowing my true nature. Now listen carefully. I founded the Bloody Serpent. Both groups are shocked by this. The assassins and his team say, you don't need to resist. There's no way to defeat Akira. Akira pulls out a knife to finish the guy in front. The weak need to be exterminated, but as he tries to kill him, his knife is blocked by something, and the guy is still alive. We see it's Kiyomi who stopped the knife with his sword. Akira sneers, look who it is. Why are you still so energetic? Kiyomi replies, yes, I lost my appetite a bit, and now I understand the empty breakfast boxes. That's where the poison was. See? He shows the phone he stole from Akira. Akira is obviously very upset about this. Era thinks she would never have guessed Akira's plan. Akira gets very irritated and pulls out his knife to face our protagonist. And our protagonist is ready for battle. One hand on his sword, the other on his cell phone. Akira says, looks like our plan was spied on, huh? From there, Kiyomi says, you're a compulsive thief, aren't you? Judging by the fact that I didn't tell anyone, you couldn't believe it until you saw the whole scene, right? We see all the other hunters fallen. Kiyomi thinks, exactly. I couldn't unlock the phone, so I only saw part of the messages. Since there was a possibility of more people conspiring, we couldn't trust the entire team. Suddenly, Eru says, even if I didn't know everything, I had a hunch. She points to her partner, who introduced her to Kiyomi. She says, it was you, wasn't it? You poisoned the food. He chuckles and shows the bottle he used. But the plan went a bit wrong. I thought I'd need to use this whole bottle here, but I didn't. So, let's see a more accurate shot. I have to applaud you, but what do you think you can do? Just the two of you against all of us. Especially with one of you being a D-class. They start laughing at our protagonist. Eru says, I'll buy us some time. She grabs her arrows. You need to escape and report to the authorities and Alice. But Ukiyama simply says, I refuse. She's shocked, right? But Ukiyama responds, I was hired to take down these killer players. Eru says, what can a mere D-class adventurer do? See? He says, don't worry about me. Go report if you're so concerned. She says, I told Alice-sama I'd take care of you. She steps forward and starts covering him. Kami says, oh, such an honest person. I don't want her to die. Akira appears. Is your chat over? When Pata realizes Akira is behind him, he gets scared but steps aside. He thinks it's one of the assassin's moves he knows well, the shadow step. Akira rises. Kaimiyaki, I've been interested in you for some time. I'm going to kill all the adventurers here without letting anyone pass. All the poor beginners are terrified. Akira gets right in front of Kiyomi. Do you think you can stop me? Proto glares at him, very irritated. And you back there can do whatever you want. I'm sure I'll have a lot of fun. We see Kiyomi and Iru surrounded by these killer players, but Akira disappears into the shadows. The assassins already attack Kiyomi, but Iru wasn't joking when she said it was him. She already manages to take down 3 guys with an arrow. But while one is falling, all bloody, more assassins rush toward her. One says, die! He points the knife at Iru. She's aiming straight at him, but our Protoss says, Ichinos. He doesn't need to say anything more. He just holds the sword and kills everyone in front of him. Era gets the message and lowers her weapon immediately. We see Era's reaction and the guys falling, all bloodied. He says, I told you, without class you were stronger, didn't I? Era says, it's not the class that's strong, it's you who's strong. Suddenly, a bottle is thrown in their direction. It lands right between Kiyomi and Eru. When the bottle bursts, it releases light and smoke. A smoke screen forms between Eru and Kiyomi. She thinks, damn, we're finished. Someone behind Eru says, your opponent is me. As Class A, let's be friends. It's Shirota Taiki, the poison alchemist. They face off for a moment. Eru grabs 3 bottles, traitor. I'll end this quickly. He says, you talk as if strength is the only thing that matters. She replies, that way of talking always irritated me. He says, it's all about personality, and throws several flasks at her. She manages to shoot the arrows in time, exploding the flasks in the air. Iru says, I'll never understand something like this. But she didn't see one flask still had liquid inside. It falls into the other mixtures, causing a chain reaction, and an explosion of light happens right in front of Eru. The fire grows, creating a fiery explosion around her. The alchemist starts laughing. I knew you'd shoot poison, and sometimes it causes explosions too. While he's talking, an arrow hits his shoulder. Not all arrows come from the front. You idiot. You're the idiot for blocking your own view. He drops to his knees, bleeding heavily. Impossible. I've been defeated. That's it. As he falls to his knees, Eru says, hey, without class, you're still alive, right? When she looks, everyone is already fallen. She says, wait. Kumi stands there with his sword. She sees that look on our protagonist's face. She says, Jesus, you really are a very reliable without class, huh? But who appears behind Kumi now is Akira, with his knife. Our protagonist has quick reflexes. He's just scratched on the chest instead of being stabbed. He says, yes, in the end, I have to do everything myself. We see his file again, S-rank adventurer, Babazono Akira, assassin class. What I think is that he's very fast. My current self can't fully keep up. So, this is what it's like to face an S-class. I could barely see him. He says, run. He's clearly on a different level from us. Akira uses the same ability to disappear into the shadows again. The shadow step. Our protagonist, seeing this, chuckles. What? Why did he smile? Our protagonist prepares to attack, but he actually throws his sword. Akira is shocked because the sword is stuck right in the head of his shadow. He panics. How did he know that? And he thinks, yeah, this is bad. I was the best assassin in this world for 10 years. Then, when the sword hits the shadow, it disappears. Akira steps on the sword to remove it and says, we can't call this a coincidence. When did you discover the weakness of the shadow step? And to be clear, I know a bit about these scenes. A bit, huh? You're full of mysteries. So, do you know about this? He cuts his finger with a knife, and when the blood drops, it forms another shadow. Several shadows begin to surround Akira, but not just him, everyone around him too. Kyomi, now within this shadow curtain, thinks this is an assassin's flaw. The shadow contract. Yeah, as I thought. He's a contract assassin. At this moment, Kyomi is receiving another attack. He catches the thrown knife with 2 fingers. For those who were the most popular for 20 years, yes, I know these tricks. We see him grabbing Akira's arm. Akira, emerging from the shadows, is shocked by this. Kyomi disarms him, kicking his knife away. To top it off, he catches the knife Akira threw at him and throws it back at an observing creature, an eye with wings, a familiar called the Shadow Messenger. I won't show you anything, but I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It worked. When he killed a familiar, the shadow dissipated. He thought of the adventurers. Everything is clear again. Then Akira returns to retrieve his knife, saying, seems like you know everything about assassins. Yukiya responds, I'll leave that to your imagination. But you're forgetting something fundamental here. He quickly moves from our protagonist, who reacts just in time to dodge the knife. Akira maneuvers to corner Kyomi on the bridge, saying, even if you counterattack, you won't defeat an S-class like me. You have no hope of winning here. Eru rushes to Kyomi's side, telling him to run and covering him with her bow. Akira chuckles at Eru's desperation, but when he sees the protagonist's expression, Akira's smile vanishes. He asks, why are you laughing? The protagonist replies, I thought it was obvious for an assassin, but I was saved by your weakest attack. Even though you're an S-class assassin, I wasn't killed instantly. Akira says, ah, attack power, I see. So, do you have a chance to win? Kyo says, yes, I do. He thinks, now it's my turn. State open. He opens a status window called proficiency, showing 81. Eru and Akira are shocked. Secret class? A status window with a lock appears, opening. Release. Class change. Our protagonist is enveloped by the system's blue aura. He thinks, everything I did was for this moment. Secret class. The system announces he obtained the creator class. Even his left eye changes. Akira wonders, creator? What's that? Eru says, I never heard of a class you had to go classless to obtain. Akira adds, it's a very different requirement. I chose the classless route because it accumulates proficiency much faster. Eru asks, proficiency? What's that? Akira replies, I don't know, but changing class won't make you stronger. He throws several knives at our protagonist. This ability is the Serpent Strike. Our protagonist simply responds, create. The Great Troll Sword, and a sword larger than everyone there appears, blocking all the knives Akira threw. Akira thinks, what? He summoned a weapon? Kyo responds, no, I created it. It's too early for you to be surprised. He opens a portal, and many swords begin to emerge from these portals. Akira is in total shock. Eru thinks each of these weapons has magical power. This power is immeasurable. He tells Akira, come, S-rank assassin, I'll show you the pinnacle of proficiency. Akira is in disbelief. A class that creates swords? This is very different from summoning a duplicate with magic. Akira realizes our protagonist is creating all this material with the power of a single person. No, 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 this This is impossible. There's no way a D-class can defeat me. But Akira is visibly trembling. What's wrong with you, Akira? If you won't come, I'll come to you. He summons an enormous sword against Akira, even more intimidating. He throws the sword at Akira, piercing him. Akira is split in half, but it was just a clone. A clone? What the hell? Ero wonders, what was that power just now? Meanwhile, Akira is hiding in Eru's shadow, fleeing. He thinks, what speed is that? Oh, this is bad, very dangerous. But our protagonist doesn't stop, already summoning another sword. He calls forth the bright and illuminating sword. He places it above with a brilliant aura. Illuminate. Akira is revealed from his shadows by this light. When Era realizes he was in her shadow, she's also very scared. The other sword hovers above, illuminating the entire battlefield. Kyom is already summoning more swords, this time the freezing sword. Akira is completely surrounded by them. The protagonist launches all the swords at Akira. He tries to run, but stumbles on one of the swords, falling face first. His feet are frozen to the ground. What the hell are you? Aren't you a classless? How can you break your assassin's skills so easily? Our protagonist, walking towards him, says, with such low attack and defense, and with your only differentiating skill from other classes being sealed, which is your mobility, there's nothing you can do. It's over for you. And our protagonist summons more ice swords. Akira is completely desperate because this time, there's nowhere to run. All the swords head in his direction, and at the end of Akira, we see his body pierced by the ice swords. The other assassins are shocked. The protagonist looks at them and says, is there anyone else who wants to continue this? All the assassins drop their weapons and surrender to Kiyomi. The other adventurers are overjoyed, right? Era starts helping those who were poisoned, giving them antidotes. She sees Kyo tying up the other assassins. She thinks he suddenly became extremely impressive, but in his head, he's very nervous. I'm very weak. As expected, I used too much magical power on this. I think I pushed myself a bit too hard. Era seems to comfort him a bit, saying, good job. What was that incredible power you showed? The protagonist says, yes, I've already explained it. He thinks that no one knows about this in the time he is now. Well, it doesn't surprise me, does it? In his previous timeline, he only got this information 20 years after this point thanks to the connections he had as an S rank. Then he asks, how are you going to explain this to everyone? Huh? Are you going to say, I'm a D-class adventurer who has a class? I mean, there's no need for that. It's just a hidden class that defeated an S-rank assassin, and I wouldn't be surprised if you caused an uproar in the news tomorrow morning. And he says, oh, no way, that's too dangerous, right? Eru says, yes, very dangerous. This will turn the world upside down. Yes, I'll talk to Miss Alice and ask for her help to keep this a secret for you. He says, yes, please, that would be a big help. She asks, so, how's this hidden class? How does it work? Can I become a creator too? The protagonist explains that to unlock the creator class, you need proficiency. However, proficiency increases with the use of different weapons. Among them, great swords are the hardest to level up. He says that these special missions and the knowledge from his past life made him a creator of great swords. Even if he shares this information, it would be extremely difficult to achieve. Eru says, hey, teach me instead of thinking alone. He says, even if I teach you, you won't be able to replicate it. She says, what the heck? Okay. He says, but in exchange, I can teach you archery. She's like, what? Literally, her class is being an archer, and the guy wants to teach her how to use a bow. He thinks that in his life he experimented with various legendary weapons. Kiyomi says to Eru, I know a bit about bows. Eru says, you just said you know everything. Who are you? Huh? I'm just an adventurer. You're teasing me, right? Anyway, it's better to keep this a secret. Kiyomi says, yes, that's what I intend to do. The group of novice adventurers comes to thank our protagonist for saving them, right? Everyone starts asking, can you tell us your name? What skill did you use? He gets bombarded with questions and feels very pressured. Eru says to him, oh, dear, keeping this a secret is going to be a bit difficult. Huh? He just gives a little smile. He introduces himself. Guys, I'm Kiyomi, but I can't tell you everything. In the next scene, we're at the adventurer's office. We see the latest news. The first news, of course, is that Akira Basho, the model and S-rank adventurer, was arrested this morning. Our boss kept him alive just to be arrested. That's it. I liked it. The news reveals who he really was. They said he was training with E-rank hunters just so he could kill them. He was arrested in that same dungeon along with his accomplices in this crime. The police also suspect that he is the founder of that clan, the Bloody Serpent, which has several killer players and has already attacked several other adventurers so far. The case is still being investigated to prevent other related crimes. Meanwhile, at the Adventurers Association, everything is in complete chaos. Everyone is on the phone. The situation there is very hectic. Even the receptionist is getting nervous about all this. Suddenly, everyone stops to appreciate who is passing by. It's our boy, Kai Miyaki, and he says he would like to finish the job, and the receptionist says it's not possible. Yeah, besides, the situation has worsened a lot since everything happened. So, we need to discuss how we will respond to this job you did. I was thinking, is there a discussion about this? And someone up there says, yes, this is getting out of control. And we see it's Alice. She says, everyone can hear us here. How about we talk a little more in private? She then takes him to a room that seems to have a table full of people, looking like a tense meeting. But Eru is very happy to see our protagonist. She walks in all smiling and heads towards our protagonist. He says, "Ah, you were also summoned." Alice says, "Ah, seems like you two got pretty close, huh?" And Kiyomi says, "Actually, not really." Eru gets a bit nervous about this, and Alice pats her head, saying, "These times were really tough, right? But you did well." She gets all embarrassed and says, "Yes, it was a really difficult mission." Then everyone at the table stands up, except one guy, the old man who was leading the mission. He comes down to apologize. He says, "I officially apologize. I never imagined there was a player killer infiltrator in the team, but I think this old man is pretending. He didn't know everything, didn't know the guy would want to kill everyone. Anyway, let's see what happens next, right?" Alice says he was a deception specialist. It was inevitable that no one suspected him. The man says, "But I have no excuses. Kill me, along with an even bigger financial compensation than you would ever receive. As a special case, I want to promote you to a rank C adventurer." Kiyomi thinks, "Wow, but I was just recently promoted to rank D." Eru thinks, "Wow, he's already made it." Then Iru thinks, "Wow, he's never been happy in his life, has he?" Iru says to him with that bread face of his, "Be happier about this, for goodness sake." But the guy says, "Yeah, this has never happened before. There's no precedent." So, for confirmation, I called these three representatives. The head of the adventurer's office, the S-rank adventurer Gok, and the one we already know well, Alice Takagi, S-rank adventurer. Kumi says, "Representative?" Alice says, "Yes, that's right. Now you realize how amazing I am?" Kumi doesn't even react, but suddenly the man bangs the table and says, "You didn't come here to chat. Why break the table? Man, what's this about? Since a low rank like you defeated an S rank, I was curious about who you were." He pulls out Kiyomi's card and shows it. He's only level 11 and still classless? It seems very suspicious to me. Then he grabs Kiyomi by the collar and says, "You must be another fraud, like Babazono. What trick did you use? Huh? Try to escape from me now with your classless power." Another man nervously says, "Hey, guys, fighting in the office is forbidden." The director says, "Okay, let him go." Then Uru says to the director, "Are you kidding? Let's stop this before it gets worse." Goku continues talking to our protagonist. "What happened? Huh? Weren't you supposed to be a rank C? Or was that also a bluff?" But when he looks back, he realizes he's surrounded by swords pointed at his neck. He gets very nervous with those blades near his throat. Alice says, "Enough, get out of here." "Gookie, I'd call you Goki, but it's Gookie, not after, before." He gets nervous, right? But then he lets go of our protagonist. While our protagonist recovers and removes the swords, Alice asks, "Are you okay?" "Oh, sorry." We see that idiot leading. Alice says, "He's one of the weakest in rank S, both in skill and status, so he's desperate to protect his position. Please forgive him." Our protagonist has his typical line, "I don't care." She says, "Really? Oh, thank you." She gets all excited with him. "And that rumor about your creator class, huh? It's more amazing than I had heard." Kyo looks directly at Eru and says, "Idnos." She gets all nervous because she knows it was her who said it. She says, "I'm sorry. I ended up talking to her to explain why all this happened, man." Alice says, "You can't shut everyone up, man, so don't be mad at her." "Oh, really?" Then the director talks to him. "Do you have any intention of telling us information about the classless?" He says, "No." The director says, "Even if we offer you money?" I refuse. He thinks it would be a distraction for many other adventurers, and it will end badly, disturbing other adventurers, just like with Gookie. And anyway, being examined isn't cool either. The director says, it's a shame." Alice says, "Is that all for now? Can we go now?" The director says, "Yes, you can go. For your efforts, Kumiyaki." The director leaves the room. Alice puts a hand on his shoulder and says, "I have something to ask you too. There's someone I need to introduce to you. You'll definitely be very surprised. She's been looking for you to see you again." When they get to the room, he notices it's that support he had before, that nurse. The scene shifts to another place in the city, and it looks like they're in a restaurant. Everyone is impressed with what's happening. People ask, "Is that the person with the infinite color? It's clear she's famous, right?" She says, "Is it inconvenient for you? Inviting you like this, so suddenly?" Cammy says, "No, not really. I'm a bit surprised you become so famous." Now we see the scene of them meeting again. Cammy asks, "Is it you, Naomi?" She says, "Yes, it's been a long time, hasn't it?" Alice says, "Yes, she's grown a lot since joining that group you suggested." She says, "Yes, I'm at level 15 now." Kiyomi thinks, "You're higher level than me." Iru leans on Kiyomi's shoulder and asks, "Do you know the healing revolutionary?" Naomi remembers that when they met, she was very embarrassed, blushing. He says, "Yes, a lot happened." Alice says, "Yes, it seems you've become the center of attention now, right, Naomi?" Kiyomi says, "Yes, it seems so, right?" She says, "Yes, it was thanks to meeting Kiyomi, actually, and that's why I want." She's too nervous to speak. Alice says she wants Kiyomi. All nervous, she says, "I want us to have dinner together." Kiyomi thinks, just us two?" He thinks, I didn't expect this." Alice says, "Yes, go and have fun, Kiyomi. She's really really very grateful to you. Kiyomi says, okay, let's go now. She's so happy, she says, yes. Alice says, then it's decided. Lead it to me, I've taken care of everything. Now we're back at the restaurant, where Naomi is ordering her dish, and Kiyomi smiles and says, yes, you've changed a lot. You've become even brighter. We see that our protagonist is now dressed up for dinner. Naomi says, it's all thanks to you, Kiyomi, because you introduced me to that necromancer group. If it weren't for that, I think I'd still be stuck in the past. She remembers all the bad things she went through in other groups, and she says that since I learned the skill of soul healing when I joined that group, my world and I have completely changed. And what do I think? Soul healing, right? A healer can't learn that without being with a necromancer. It's a crucial skill to help low-level healers. In the world 20 years from now, in my past life, it was an extremely common combination. But in this world, Naomi has become a pioneer in it. She says, I was weak and couldn't contribute much. I became strong enough to help everyone in my group and ended up giving hope to many other healers who were in the same situation as me. Thanks to this, the healer class has gained a lot of popularity. And what I mean is that the more healers there are, the better the chances of adventurers staying alive. You really learned a very important skill. She says happily, yes, and Kumi thinks she seems happy. Ah, it looks like the food is here. Let's eat. As Naomi eats, Kumi is also very happy with the situation. Suddenly, Kumi stops eating. Naomi asks, don't you like the taste of the food? He says, no, it's delicious. I just wish my sister could try it too. Since she's hospitalized, she has to eat that horrible food, but she has to keep eating it. Naomi says, I think there's still a lot of potential in healers. If I were stronger, I could help with your sister's illness. Kiyomi, if there's anything I can do to help your sister, let me know. You saved me from my bad days. I want to help you in return as well. I'll definitely call you when the time comes. Then he puts his hand on hers, and she gets all nervous and blushes. She tries to say something else, but she's too nervous. If you don't mind, with you, he says, oh, no problem. We can do that later, can't we? She's shocked that he just accepted. Then we see a scene that looks like a pool with a blanket over it. We see our protagonist and I am enjoying the pool now. I says, I thought we could use this pool here. He remembers it was Miss Alice who suggested it. It's good to do this here sometimes. Nami thinks to herself, that's not what I meant. She shouts, hey, do you have a girlfriend? He thinks, girlfriend? He imagines that if he had a girlfriend, his sister would be very jealous. He says, no, I don't think I plan to have one for now. She says, oh, good. He's a bit confused, but we know she's happy because he doesn't have a girlfriend, right? You can see she likes him a lot, man. She says, no, it's nothing. To distract her from the awkward situation, she grabs a ball and says, since we're at the pool, let's enjoy it. She throws the ball to the protagonist. He tries to catch it before it falls, but he ends up falling into the pool with it. Naomi laughs at him, but he pulls her foot, and they both almost drown in the pool. My gosh. When he gets up, he's in a curious position. He says, Naomi, should I show you? She asks, what? She's all nervous. He says, my swimming style. He starts making a small whirlpool in the water, and everyone's like, man, he could have been a swimmer, man. The guy by the pool thinks, what a man, and is all, he's so cool. The guy thinks, what a strange couple. In the next scene, we see everyone early in the morning, all sleeping. Yukiomi, and Iru were summoned. Alice says, new team formation, congratulations. Iru asks, why did you call us so early? Alice responds, from now on, you three will go to the rank B dungeon, the cursed underground tomb. If you succeed, you can join my clan, the S-rank clan, Ira Coralina. Everyone is obviously surprised because it's an S-rank clan. Nami is the most surprised by all this. So, are you interested? Kumi says, for sure. Nami says, let's do our best. That's how I like to see it, right? Speaking of which, in my time, 20 years later, Ira Coralina was considered the greatest S-rank clan. But by the time I was reincarnating, it had already been completely dissolved. I remember hearing some news about it, but will it happen again? Iru says to him, you're getting lost in thought again. Got it? I'll keep an eye on you since you're a major exception in your ranking, okay? We note that Naomi is a B-rank healer, Iru is an A-rank archer, and our protagonist is a C-rank creator. Yes, but everyone knows he's the strongest there is, right? He thinks, I'm the lowest rank here. Iru says, anyway, let's work together again. Alice says, the trial will start tomorrow. For now, you're dismissed. Iru says, prepare well. I have some games to restart at home. Yukio grabs her by the hood and says, wait a minute, if you have time, come with us. What? Make your own preparations. You're not a beginner. They're not mine, they're yours. Relax, we'll buy something really good for you. Naomi feels a bit left out. She's jealous. To prepare, they go to a rank C dungeon. Iru says, I can't believe I'm in a dungeon on my day off. What are you doing here? We see Naomi saying, sorry. Yukio turns to Naomi and says, are you okay with this? I don't know if this is bothering you. Rufus says, this guy? Yes, it's fine. I'm sure I'll contribute to you. We'll gain experience points too. She says she's not here for that. I'm here just to be with Kyom. I want to be reliable for him, and I don't want to lose to her. Rufus says, okay, just don't get lost and follow us, okay? Then Kiyomi hides behind a bush and says, shhhhhhh. We see there's a centaur fallen in the clearing. This is a centaur. What's it doing here? Actually, it's very fortunate we found one. Looks like it's resting. How convenient. The system pops up, saying a mission has been unlocked. Heal the monster. He thinks, what? Heal the monster? Ah, another absurd mission, as usual. He says, Nyami, come here. Be careful, okay? They approach slowly, but there's an insect watching them, and it seems to alert the centaur. Then he says, be careful. A ray of light will guide you. This ray of light is one of the centaur's arrows. It readies another arrow in their direction. Suddenly, he thinks, shooting an arrow? What an incredible response time. The girl says, centaurs don't usually attack humans, right? He thinks to himself, that's true, but we're not here to find normal things. The centaur is still very upset with them. He says, wait, we're not here to fight. The centaur seems very tired, actually. Suddenly, it falls to its knees. Anya says, ah, it looks like it's in some pain. Ah, judging by its appearance, Eru, be careful. Did you hear anything? No, but do I really need to be careful here? Suddenly, she also falls, feeling pain. Yes, I think you got your answer, Eru. They say, damn, Eru. Ah, and the same person who weakened the centaur did this with poison. No, we see a giant insect with a poisonous stinger. It's a veninsect, a ranked sea monster. The protagonist creates another sword, the demonic Muramasa. He tries to attack with Muramasa, but the insects dodge. There's a big one and several smaller ones around. Muramasa starts chasing these insects, who are trying to escape the sword at all costs. Meanwhile, Eru and Inuyami seem to be affected by the poisonous mist. He thinks, damn, I made the wrong move. He says, this is poisonous pollen. Let's get under that tree. He thinks, ah, this is a very annoying enemy to defeat. I wish I had finished it in my first move. But he realizes that Iru is in the middle of the mist, heavily affected by the poison. When the insects surround her, our protagonist creates a lightning sword and fries all the insects around her. He asks, can you stand? She says, no, I thought it would be easy, so I let my guard down. Suddenly, she feels much better again. We see that it was Nyami using her healing. She creates a healing aura around them so they can stay within the poisonous mist. Okiyama asks, is that an area ability? She says, no, I'm using it individually, but I can only heal. I can't give resistance to poison. One day my magic will run out if I keep using it multiple times. We see that she's already getting weak. Okiyama notices she's using the same magic over and over. See you next time, she says, minimizing the effects of the poison. But she can't move well and is getting very tired from concentrating so hard. Ah, we need to solve this before Nami falls. Eru, can you take down that thing? That's the queen. Its strategy is to paralyze us with poison and use the other insects to attack us. We'll become mincemeat if we don't get out of here soon. He says, I'll take care of the small ones and leave the rest to you. He's already frying the small ones with his thunder sword. The queen gets angry because he's killing her small ones, but Eru shoots 3 arrows in her direction and manages to hit the queen's wings. This makes the queen focus on Eru. Eru thinks, yeah, I don't think it worked very well. Niev is getting tired. Eru thinks, we need to be quick, but as she realizes, the queen is already heading towards her with an arrow. She's knocked down by the queen. I'm worried about her, but she says, no, I'm fine. She prepares another arrow, but the queen is still on top of her. Suddenly, a hand grabs her arm, and she realizes it's the hand of the fallen and weak centaur. The centaur takes its bow and places it in Eru's hand. To protect both, our protagonist creates the great troll sword. This completely blocks the queen's path. Eru says, this is getting annoying, and prepares an arrow. But the centaur's bow is dangerous. The arrow she shoots comes out with that ray of light. It hits right in the queen's mouth. To finish, our protagonist is already behind the queen. He uses skill enchantment. He makes several cuts on the queen's body, completely tearing her apart. Niev says, wow. Eru says, sorry, but can you come here now, Niev? Can you help her? We see the weak centaur on the ground. The man says, sorry, Niev, but can you do one last healing? She says, yes, I can. She uses her healing magic on the centaur, who then feels much better. Kiyomi, mission accomplished. His reward is another key for the adventurer. Eru says, ah, I'm glad you're okay, and take this. But the centaur wants her to keep its bow. She thanks it with a smile and walks away into the forest. Eru thinks, she's giving me her bow. Then Kiyomi turns to her and says, this is the high-end bow I was talking about. Remember when I told you about a bow before? Centaurs can make bows with their own magic. The performance of these bows surpasses those made by humans and isn't easy to obtain. I was planning to steal one, but Eru said you're a very bad person. Eru says, but seriously, this bow is incredible. I can feel it just by touching it. Nami says, this is amazing, Eru. Eru says, I was surprised when you appeared, but I'm glad you came. You kept using your magic. You're truly a revolutionary healer. They become friends now. Niev even starts to cry. She's so happy. Eru says, why are you crying? Why are you crying? Kiyomi thinks, yeah, we had problems, but thanks to them, we managed to get through this. When Kyo looks to the side and sees an arrow stuck in a tree, he realizes there's an animal trap there. Kyo thinks to himself, wow, she never intended to attack us from the beginning. He smiles, and and now we see Sentara looking beautiful and happy.
Alice announced firmly, "What's up, guys? Let's start the Carnelian Rage entry test." The group cheered, feeling the excitement of the moment. Finally, the long-awaited test was about to take place. Niami, visibly nervous, tried to motivate her colleagues. "Let's do our best, everyone." However, his confidence began to wane as soon as they reached the B-rank dungeon, the cursed underground tomb. Hearing the high-pitched screech of a bat, Niami almost fainted. Someone asked, worried, "Are you all right?" "I'm calm," she replied, pale and visibly shaken. They moved on while an explanation was given about the dungeon, a place where the undead gathered. Most of the ghost-type monsters were immune to physical attacks. The group remained confident, although the nervousness of some members, such as Itanos, was noticeable. She tried in vain to disguise her fear of ghosts. Suddenly, the earth shook, and rank C zombie goblins emerged from the ground. At the same time, a humanoid-looking ghost appeared behind them. Prepared for combat, the group advanced. Kyomi, with her legendary Excalibur weapon, began to cut down the goblins that appeared in her path, incinerating them with the sacred power of her sword. Niami, amazed, couldn't hide her excitement. He used the sacred attribute as expected of Kyomi. However, the ghost that had appeared suddenly disappeared, leaving a feeling of unease. The group soon realized that the souls of the fallen goblins were being sucked away by a C-rank soul eater. Knowing that they were at a disadvantage against creatures with no physical form, Niami acted quickly. She recited a holy spell, creating an intense light that tormented the monsters. She then channeled the souls sucked into her scepter, transforming them into healing for her allies. "Are you healing using souls?" asked one of the group members, surprised. "This is soul healing," explained Niami. "I use the power of the dead to heal, and the excess energy is transformed into magical power. I learned this skill thanks to Lord Kyomi. Now I understand why they call you a revolutionary healer. You really are impressive." Kyomi, observing Niami's skill, reflected deeply. "The amount of healing and magical power she's manipulating is much greater than I expected. Niami has become much stronger than I imagined. Perhaps, with her by our side, we can face that enemy." His reverie was abruptly interrupted by Itanos' scream, as the group was surrounded by more undead. The situation was becoming critical. Suddenly, a sinister melody began to echo through the dungeon, affecting the monsters around them. In the distance, a ghostly figure appeared. "It's that ghost from before." "What is it?" exclaimed one of the characters. "It's the King of the Dead. I can't believe we found him here," Kyomi explained, as the tension grew. "They say that even an S-rank adventurer is easy prey for him. Cover your ears. We can't hear what he's singing." However, the group soon realized that the melody wasn't affecting them, but the monsters themselves, who began to fall before the deadly sound. The King of the Dead stepped forward and cast a powerful spell, throwing the group against a wall that apparently shouldn't have been there. To everyone's surprise, they began to walk through the wall as if it were an illusion. "He has an ability like that?" muttered Kyomi, still trying to understand the situation. "What are you planning, King of the Dead?" The threat was clear, and the group, disoriented, knew they would have to fight to survive the confrontation with this fearsome entity. Until the three of them fell to the ground and found themselves in a closed room. It seemed to be a hidden room. Suddenly, the King of the Dead burst through the wall. The protagonist immediately drew his Excalibur to defend himself. "It doesn't look like he's hostile towards us. What are you planning, King of the Dead?" In a bizarre, melancholy voice, the King of the Dead began to speak, saying that he wanted to borrow Niami's power. "My what? My power?" The King of the Dead used the skill soul release, and countless souls began to emerge from inside a lantern. Among them, a strange figure emerged, the Soul Catcher, the boss of this dungeon. "What happened to this boss?" asked the protagonist. "What does the liberation of souls mean?" "He takes the souls of the dead and uses their magical power. The captured souls become magical resources, giving this boss immense power. And for some reason, only with his skill, soul healing, is it possible to cut off the power he is receiving." Niami remembered that his ability converts the power of the dead into healing, using souls in a different way to the boss. "Looks like I got my guess right. King of the Dead?" He nodded. "You know a lot for your first time here," said Alice, without adding more. The King of the Dead led them to another place. He touched a wall, opening a large hole. "We'd better get ready, team. The boss is just ahead." They crossed the shortcut and arrived in a room with an aggressive aura. Sitting on his throne was the Soul Catcher, with with a menacing expression. He let out an imposing shout, revealing his rank power, which stunned everyone except the protagonist, who stood his ground. Just follow the plan and everything will be fine. Come on, team. Niami began to recite his spell, while the soul catcher released several ghosts from his lantern, attacking the team with a massive area of effect. They had no way of dodging but were protected by a shield. This shield was created by the King of the Dead. It is the Curtain of Souls. The King of the Dead was helping the team, and confirmed this with a determined look. However, the soul catcher continued to suck out part of the soul of the King of the Dead and several other souls on the battlefield. The lantern was the source of his magical power, and as long as he had it, he could attack endlessly. The King of the Dead resisted, and Niami noticed something strange. Finally, she finished her spell and used soul healing to take all the souls from the soul catcher. He was surprised to see the souls escaping from the lantern and going to Niami, who used them to heal her allies and increase her own magical power. Now I'm sure I won't lose, said Niami, firing a fiery arrow at the soul catcher. He tried to defend himself with his curtain of souls, but the arrow was so powerful that it broke through the barrier. He narrowly dodged, feeling the pressure of the attack. Even so, the soul catcher didn't give up. Shouting that all the souls belonged to him, he threw a chain that attached itself to Itanos' arm and bow, trying to suck out his soul. Niami was worried. I think you've forgotten me. Kem appeared and cut off the boss's arm, freeing Itanos. As the boss lay dying, the protagonist explained that now, thanks to Niami's power, he could use even more magic. Ready to end the fight, he raised the Excalibur, whose holy power was effective against the undead. The soul catcher suffered as he was burned, unable to regenerate. It's time to make the final assault and conquer this dungeon. However, the soul catcher managed to free himself from the sacred fire, gathering several souls to completely regenerate his arm. He prepared for a counterattack, firing in all directions with the power of the souls. The protagonist was hit multiple times, and a thick smoke covered the field. The soul catcher laughed evilly, but his laughter was interrupted. Niami realized that the attacks were having no effect and intervened, using his holy power to repel the attack and heal the protagonist. The protagonist then provoked the soul catcher. She is your natural enemy. The protagonist finished off the soul catcher by cutting off his head, which rolled across the floor. Everyone celebrated, jumping for joy when they saw that the remains of the soul catcher were around the lantern, which was sucking in the power of the boss himself. The protagonist destroyed the lantern with the Excalibur, and all the souls trapped inside were finally freed. Look at all the souls who were imprisoned, someone exclaimed. The King of the Dead began to welcome the freed souls. Meanwhile, Kyomi stood motionless in front of the lantern, watching a spirit in the shape of a child, exactly the spirit the King of the Dead was looking for. He gave the spirit a tight hug. The protagonist guarded the Excalibur and seemed impressed. When the King of the Dead finally welcomed the last soul, he thanked the group and began to slowly disappear. Do you know what just happened here? Niami asked with a smile. Well, who knows? Someone replied. It's the first time I've seen a demon thank me, said Niami. It's the first time this has happened to me too, replied the protagonist. Well, anyway, let's go home. The next day, at the adventurer's office, congratulations on completing the dungeon. You are now officially recognized as members of the Carnelian Rage. The two celebrated with an excited, ooh-hoo, but Kyomi still hadn't arrived. Let's have a little celebration when he arrives, someone suggested. Suddenly, a team of reporters surrounded the group, asking several questions about the dungeon they had completed, the guild and the new members. They were nervous about the sudden attention. Kyomi approached and saw the crowd. What's all the fuss about? Kyomi asked. They heard about your success and came to interview you, someone explained. Ah, Kyomi, it's not me. He's the one who cleared the dungeon, said Itanos, pointing at Kyomi. The reporters checked the information on Kyomi and found out that he was classless and of C rank. Incredulous at Itanos' story, they began to congratulate him on having completed the dungeon as a C rank, leaving Itanos a little embarrassed. It looks like you're in trouble, someone said. Suddenly, Kyomi's cell phone rang. Hello? Kyomi answered, but was soon shocked. What happened? He dropped his cell phone and ran off. Kyomi ran to the hospital, panting, and saw that Natsu was in a crisis, with doctors and nurses performing an emergency procedure to save her. Let me in. It's my sister's life that's in danger, Kyomi shouted. One of the doctors stopped him. He can't get in. The symptoms have worsened. The alchemist hasn't finished the cure yet. Someone approached Kyomi and handed her his cell phone. Is this my cell phone? Kyomi noticed a missed connection and, next to her, a security guard, who appeared to be a bodyguard, said, I heard about your sister's condition when you dropped your cell phone. Are you Alice? What's that loud noise in the background? Kyomi asked, confused. The security guard pointed to the window and Kyomi saw a helicopter landing on the hospital's helipad. I've decided to call in reinforcements because you're now part of the Carnelian Rage, said Alice, showing the medallion that now belonged to Kyomi. The doctors who were looking after Natsu were surprised by the arrival of the magic doctors. They explained that these professionals were part of an organization that gained notoriety after the appearance of mana in the world. With their vast magical knowledge, they were able to cure diseases that were previously impossible to treat with ordinary technology, saving countless lives. One doctor said to another, "They're much more capable than we are. Let's leave the case in the hands of the magic doctors." The magical doctors examined Natsu and diagnosed that she had an advanced stage mana vortex that needed to be drained. Who are all these people who have suddenly arrived? Kyomi asked, still visibly worried. Don't worry, Kyomi. They're extremely competent people, someone replied. Kyomi, still nervous, watched from afar as the magical doctors worked to save his sister. After a while, they heard footsteps in the corridor, and the magical doctors opened the door. How is she? Kyomi asked anxiously. We managed to stabilize her. She'll be fine soon, said the magical doctors. Ah yes, of course. Thank you very much, said Kyomi, relieved. Thank you very much, said Kyomi, relieved. One of the doctors replied, You shouldn't thank me but Alice, who called them. Alice replied with a smile. Don't worry about it, darling. After all, that's my way of doing things. What do you mean? Kyomi asked, confused. It's all right. Besides, I couldn't leave you alone in this. Kyomi, embarrassed, thanked him. Thank you for what you've done. After a while, Alice said goodbye to the doctors, and Kyomi approached her again. Alice, can you lend me some more of your power? I need to save Natsu, please. Alice smiled, amused. You ask me in such a polite way. It's an honor. What do you need now, my dear? Kyomi reflected on Alice's sincerity and trust. He knew he needed to reveal his secrets to her soon, but for now, he felt he could trust her. Alice, I know how to treat the mana vortex, but we urgently need someone with alchemy skills. Do you know anyone who has this skill? Alchemist? I've never heard of such a class before. I don't think this class has been discovered yet. We need to return to the world of the elves. The work of an alchemist is the key to this. There is a stone called the Magic Moonstone that can heal the mana vortex. Magic Moonstone? I've heard of it. Does it have any other uses? No, you're not doubting my words, are you? I know you're a man with many secrets. You don't have to reveal everything to me. I don't abandon my friends, said Alice, holding out her hand to him again. If it's any use, I know someone who I've seen change the structure of a magic stone. I don't know if this ability is what you're looking for, but it could be helpful. Understood. But you'd better prepare yourself. This person isn't easy to deal with. The scene changed to a luxury car approaching Tokyo Central University Hospital. Inside the car was Kenzaki Tera, a doctor affiliated with the hospital, wearing exquisite clothes and glasses. Reporters and paparazzi crowded around, calling for Dr. Kenzaki and asking about a new medication he had invented. Yes, I made it up. It wasn't very difficult, he replied dismissively. Was it a lot of effort, a lot of learning? They asked. I'd say it was talent, replied Kenzaki, walking away. Excuse me, I need to do my job now. Security guards, keep the reporters away. Yes, it's a talent, a gift from God, said Kenzaki. Before entering the office, he was told that the rewards for the new drug were on the table. He took the envelope, pulled out some notes and sniffed them. Ah, this is pure happiness. My talent is alchemy, he said, beginning to transmute the money note. Suddenly, he received a phone call. Of course, Dad. What's the subject? Do you have some time? There's someone who wants to meet you, said Dad. So suddenly, Dad? I don't know exactly who it is, but it's a person of high authority. What do you mean, Dad? It's urgent. You just need to meet him. That's all. Of course, Dad. I'll send you this person's information. A person who can influence even my father? What could it be? Politician? When he looked at the information, he saw that it was Kyomi, a C-class adventurer. I was expecting someone more dignified. Just an ordinary adventurer, muttered Kenzaki, as his secretary announced that the guest had arrived. Oh yes, of course. Let him in. Kyomi entered, greeting with a formal tone. Nice to meet you, sir. I'm Kyomi. Thank you for your time, said Kenzaki, with an expression of disdain. It's my pleasure. I'm Dr. Kenzaki Tera. So, you have urgent matters to discuss with me. As I'm a very busy man, you'd better be brief. Yes, of course, doctor. I'm looking for an alchemist. Someone told me that you possess this power. It's fine if you don't want to talk about it, but I'll end the conversation here if you don't, Kyomi replied, remaining calm. Ah, so that's why you're here. I don't know what kind of connections you have, but this person knows a lot. Your connection is right. And yes, I do have that power, admitted Kanzaki, with a slight smile of superiority. Kyomi, keeping her focus, asked, I finally found what I was looking for. What can you do for me? I need you to create a medicine for me. A medicine? That's easy. But how much will you pay? My talent isn't cheap. You know how much authority I have in the pharmaceutical field. I think you understand now, right? Said Kanzaki, making it clear that his interest was in profit. I didn't quite understand. I heard you were a doctor. As for the money, I can't pay you much at the moment, but I can offer you some information that could be very useful to you. Information? Do you think you're in a position to negotiate with me? If you can't pay with money, then you can forget it, Kanzaki replied thoughtfully. I think I'll take care of him too. You'd better leave now. Kanzaki used his skill on the door behind Kyomi, and, when he was distracted, quickly advanced towards him. However, Kyomi blocked the attack with ease, throwing Kanzaki away, causing him to hit the table and drop all the money. What is this power? Weren't you Class C? Kanzaki asked, surprised by the evil aura Kyomi was emanating. Please listen to me. I just need a bit of your skills, Kyomi insisted, still calm. I don't want to help someone poor who can't even pay me. I have nothing to do with you, Kanzaki replied, with an arrogant tone. It seems that all you want is money, doesn't it? Kyomi asked. But of course, money is everything in this world, said Kanzaki, laughing. So, if that's the case, if you do what I'm asking, you'll have tons and tons of money. Kyomi pondered before answering. Tons of money? Yes, I have the power to predict the future. Are you kidding? I don't believe you, Kanzaki replied skeptically. It's normal not to believe me. Alice only believed me because she lives in her own little world. But now I can't go back, said Kyomi, determined to prove his ability. If you doubt me, I'll show you my predictions. Look at the weather app. Look at this man here. Soon, he will cause a traffic accident, flee without rendering aid, and be arrested. Before fleeing, he'll run over the victim once again and receive a heavy punishment for it. Kanzaki laughed in disbelief. That seems impossible. Do you know who this person is? Kyomi proposed a bet, writing something on an envelope. Let's make a bet. If it turns out exactly as I said, you'll contact me. You want money, don't you? I'll be waiting for you. Kanzaki, still skeptical, crumpled up the paper and threw it away. The next day, while watching TV, he saw exactly what Kyomi had predicted. A famous and wealthy person had caused an accident, failed to render aid, and was arrested. Shocked, Kanzaki called Kyomi. I was waiting for your call. Turned out exactly as I predicted. What do you make of that? Kyomi asked with a provocative tone. What did you do? Kanzaki asked, still incredulous. Well, I didn't do anything. I said I see the future. Now come to the meeting point. I'm waiting where the money will be produced. Kanzaki arrived at the site, a dump where the waste from a dungeon was being disposed of. He looked around in surprise. At last you're here. Hey, what kind of place is this? This doesn't look like a place where money will be made. This is the place where the waste from a dungeon is thrown away. Adventurers bring items that fall through the gates. Sometimes these items are thrown out. These are special items that modern technology has not been able to process. Since they couldn't store them indefinitely, they were simply discarded here. But in 30 years' time, there will be a technology capable of processing these materials as biofuel. With your power, you can speed this up to a year. That way, you can monopolize this market, Kyomi explained. Kanzaki laughed in disbelief. So you think I'm stupid enough to use my talent to make money for you? Who would believe something so absurd? With one swift movement, Kanzaki threw his power into a pile of garbage, creating a garbage golem that advanced against Kyomi. However, Kyomi dodged the golem's punch and began creating steel swords, stinging the golem with ease. Surprised, Kanzaki asked, "What happened to my golem?" "So you're a creator." "Actually, I'm not a maker. I just create swords," replied Kyomi, focused. Kanzaki, desperate, used his skill to create a wall of earth, defending himself from the swords. One of them almost hit him, but stopped in midair. "I don't want to fight with you. I don't know if you understand, but I want to cooperate with you. And, of course, I'll give you a return. You want money, don't you? That's the most important thing in this world. Even if it's a penny, I need to get it. Don't you think I'm right? Said Kyomi, trying to defuse the situation. Kenzaki reflected for a moment before answering. Okay, I'll make the medicine you want so much, and I'm also willing to work with you. While pondering Kyomi's power, Kenzaki couldn't help but think. Is his power to predict the future? I'm not sure yet, but he has an ability I've never seen before. He's managed to outdo me. At least, he's above the average person. His potential caught my attention. Kyomi interrupted his thoughts with a slight irony. It's worth it, I guess, but it's still a bit strange. There are so many piles of garbage here. Do you want me to convert them into biofuel? Exactly. For now, the costs are very high, but the secret lies in the number of liters that can be produced. We're talking about monopolizing a technology that doesn't even exist yet, explained Kenzaki. It sounds promising, if true, something big. Okay, I'll deal with it on my own from now on. I don't have the technology or the funding, but the information I gave you is really useful for those who know how to use it, said Kyomi. Kenzaki agreed, puzzled. It makes sense. With your vision of the future, you could guarantee your own success. It's a shame for you, though. I wonder from what point in the future you saw it. Well, allow me the honor of witnessing your success. Okay, I'll be in touch again, said Kyomi, shaking Kenzaki's hand. He muttered to himself, reflecting on his personal mission. Yes, all the pieces of the puzzle are coming together. Just a little longer, Natsu, just a little longer. The next day, at Tokyo Central University Hospital, Kyomi went to Kenzaki's personal laboratory. Welcome to my lab, said Kenzaki, with a slightly formal tone. Thank you very much. I came too this time, replied Kyomi, accompanied by Alice. Kenzaki greeted Alice, surprised. Oh yes, of course. It's an honor to have you here, Alice Takagi. The honor is all mine. Anyway, why did you come too? Kenzaki asked, curious. Thanks to the connections I have, replied Alice, with a slight smile of confidence. No worries. But anyway, these are the ingredients I want you to use for the remedy, magic moonstones. It's the first time I've seen them up close. I feel a strong magical power inside them, and they're very beautiful. They are currently dormant. I want you to awaken them with your transmutation ability, explained Kyomi, showing off the stones. Kenzaki examined the stones, skeptical. That's very abstract, but I can try. But can you tell me what the effects of these stones are? They are used to treat mana vortex disease, Kyomi replied seriously. What's that? That seems impossible. You know this disease has no cure, right? If this is some kind of meaningless psychotherapy, I won't be able to help you. Kyomi insisted. No, I'm telling you the truth. The inside of these stones can be used to dissolve the mana blockage caused by the vortex. Kenzaki looked at the stones, feeling their magic and thinking to himself, this man is hiding something. He sent a discreet message to someone while he pondered. Okay, what kind of property should I change on this stone? Kenzaki asked. The property of heat, Alice suggested. Ah, heat, right, so let's get started. Kenzaki used his transmutation to alter the heat of the moonstones, causing a flow of mana and intense heat in the room. The surrounding environment began to cool, and Alice began to shiver. I wonder what it will look like in the end. Huh? Asked Kenzaki, curious. Nothing has changed yet. Could it be that the temperature isn't high enough? Let's condense more efficiently now, Kyomi suggested, observing the process. Suddenly, the stone began to give off sparks, and Kenzaki was finally able to see the stone's spherical core. Now I can see. I'm going to rearrange everything properly, said Kenzaki, finishing the process and breaking the moonstone's shell, revealing its core. That's good enough, commented Kyomi, satisfied. Kenzaki, more intrigued than ever, watched Kyomi as he spoke with emotion. That's exactly it. Originally, it would have taken years to complete this remedy, but now I can save my little sister who died because the remedy wasn't made in time. Thank you very much. Now I can save my sister. Alice, surprised by Kyomi's vulnerability, thought, I can't believe Kyomi showed so much emotion. His sister is really very important to him. She came closer and said, I'm so glad you made it, Kyomi. I'm flattered to witness such a historic moment. But we need to handle this achievement very carefully. If it leaks, it will cause a huge stir around the world. Yes, that can't be made public for the time being, agreed Kyomi, determined to protect the information about the revolutionary drug. Alice crossed her arms and stared firmly at Kyomi. Wait a minute, what are you saying? Now is the right time to announce this medicine. It's a treatment for a disease that threatens humanity. Did you know that? Your sister isn't the only person suffering. People all over Japan and even the world need this medicine. she declared. Kyomi answered hesitantly, but, Alice, he has the power to predict the future. You don't want people to know that, do you? Kenzaki observed the tension between the two, realizing the strength of Kyomi's argument, but was visibly irritated. Suddenly, someone called out to Kenzaki that a group of reporters had arrived. Everyone was surprised. If that's the case, if you don't want to expose this to the public, let me be in front of the cameras for you, said Kenzaki, already sketching out a plan. The reporters soon started shouting, Kenzaki, what can you tell us about the medicine that cures the mana vortex? What is its impact? Kenzaki, smiling mischievously, replied, Excuse me, Miss Alice, but Kyomi promised me a lot of money. Alice was disconcerted, but before she could reply, Kyomi intervened. It's true, I promised, but I don't have time to deal with the public and the media. I need to concentrate on healing my sister. Please don't say anything about us. Of course, don't worry. Let me take care of the media attention, assured Kenzaki, triumphantly, as he walked away dramatically, surrounded by reporters. One of the reporters commented that the Department of Magical Medicine had been trying for years to develop a treatment for mana fever and that the discovery by Kenzaki's group was a historic breakthrough. Don't talk like that. This is an achievement for all of humanity. We're just contributing to the greater good, said Kenzaki, hiding his pride. Meanwhile, Alice and Kyomi were talking privately. Kyomi, are you all right? Alice asked. You're the one who made the discovery, but it's Kenzaki who's being recognized. Kyomi shrugged, focused on his greater goal. I don't worry about that. He can take all the credit. My only wish is to save my sister. The following day, a press conference was broadcast, where Kenzaki explained that the number of patients with the mana vortex was increasing, but his group had developed an innovative treatment for the disease. Later, Kenzaki met up with Alice, Kyomi, and Neem. Hello. Good afternoon, Alice. Neem, hi. Thank you for coming, greeted Kenzaki. I'm here too, said Kyomi. Ah, Kenzaki, weren't you on TV just now? Kyomi asked, surprised by his presence. Of course not. The company press conference was in the morning, and I finished all the stones you asked for, Kenzaki replied, showing the cut stones. They're beautiful. Can we start the treatment? Kyomi, however, cut him off directly. Oh, sorry, Kenzaki, but you're going to miss out. From now on, you'll be working with Neem. Kenzaki was visibly surprised, but he forced a smile and accepted the situation. Oh yes, of course. I'll do everything I can to help, Kyomi. I'm counting on you. But he couldn't contain the confusion in his voice when he asked, Huh? How can you exclude a doctor from treatment? Alice reassured him with a slight sarcasm. Okay, Kenzaki, no jokes. We know what we're doing. It's for the good of the world. Kyomi then approached Natsu, lying on the hospital bed, still suffering from the mana vortex. I know it hurts, but it will get better soon. I'm here with you. You'll be fine, I promise. Natsu, despite the pain, nodded, showing confidence in his brother. Kyomi picked up one of the cut magic moon stones, his eyes shining with determination. He thought to himself, Natsu, I'm here with you. I'm here to save you. He placed the stones around Natsu and began the treatment. Slowly, the stones began to float, and the curse that afflicted Natsu was sucked out of his body, while a soft glow enveloped the room, marking the beginning of the cure. During the process, Natsu felt intense pain as the curse was removed from his body. Neem, concerned, used her healing magic to help Natsu breathe better, relieving some of his suffering. Kyomi, exhausted by the excessive use of mana, almost fainted, but was supported by Alice. I'll help you, Kyomi. We can't fail here, said Alice firmly. Thank you very much. Let's move on, replied Kyomi, determined to go all the way. An intense divine light emanated from the moonstones, which began to crack and break one by one. Finally, the curse seemed to have been removed. Everything's fine now. Was that enough? Kyomi asked anxiously, his heart racing. Alice approached Natsu. Natsu, how are you? Natsu, relieved, replied, I'm feeling fine. It doesn't hurt anymore. My body doesn't hurt anymore. Kyomi, overcome with emotion, couldn't hold back his tears and quickly hugged Natsu. Doesn't it hurt? Of course it doesn't. I'm so happy now. So happy, he said, crying with joy. The atmosphere was filled with emotion. Neem was also moved by the bond between the siblings, while Kenzaki, watching from a distance, remained silent. Alice, sensing the intimate moment, discreetly pulled Kenzaki close. We'll discuss the details later outside. Let these two have a moment, Alice suggested, smiling. The brothers, relieved and happy, hugged each other, feeling that everything was finally all right. However, However, the world outside still faced challenges with the mana vortex. In the days that followed, breaking news reported that the drug newly developed by Kenzaki's group had made a significant contribution to treating patients affected by the mana vortex, and the number of victims had dropped considerably. However, the problem was not completely solved. The magic moonstone had become the main ingredient, and Kenzaki's group was seeking the cooperation of adventurers to mass-produce it. Meanwhile, an intriguing conversation was taking place in a remote location. One person was listening to the news on his headset and received a call. "Good morning, brother. How's your body?" asked a female voice. "I'm feeling pretty good, to tell you the truth. How are you?" replied the male voice. "I'm currently at the peak of the highest mountain on planet Earth," she revealed. "Have you reached the top so quickly?" She was 8,850 meters up on Mount Everest. "Now just get down. You're amazing, brother. Why did you suddenly decide to climb this mountain?" "Well, because a mountain is made to be conquered, right? Sometimes you're a bit strange, brother," she joked. "It's okay, as long as I'm having fun. I want to be free to go anywhere on my own 2 feet. I feel really happy. That's why I've decided that I'm also going to become an adventurer like you. I want to collect these magic stones to help people who have been through what I've been through," said Natsu, overcome with emotion. "Of course, I understand your purpose. You're going to help me, aren't you?" "Of course, brother. I'll help you get much stronger. When I get back, we can climb together. I don't think I have the confidence to climb Mount Everest yet, but," she replied, laughing. A few days later, a plane landed at Narita Airport in Japan. Kyomi, exhausted after the flight, was looking forward to lunch with Natsu. However, as he disembarked, he saw a woman in sunglasses holding a sign with his name on it. "Are you Kyomi?" she asked. "Yes, it's me. And who are you? How did you know I'd be here today?" "My master is waiting for you," she replied calmly. "Master? And what happens if I refuse?" "Don't be like that. The master just wants to thank you for developing that medicine," she said, pointing to an elegant limousine. "The master knows everything. If you want to be thanked, get in." Kyomi, intrigued, got into the car, attracted by the plate full of exotic fruit. As they drove along, he looked out of the window at a huge mansion with a flag that looked familiar. When they arrived, the woman announced, "We're here. The master is waiting for you." He was greeted by an imposing man. "All right, welcome, Kyomi. I apologize for the approach." The host was Kira Daigo, an S-class adventurer and leader of the Frozen Elite Guild. "I can sense his aura from afar." Without giving him time to react, Kira quickly approached him and, to Kyomi's surprise, hugged him, crying on his shoulder. "Thank you so much for everything you've done. You've saved so many lives," Kira said, moved, his heartfelt tears flowing. "Thank you so much. You saved my wife. I thought there was no hope, but you saved her with the medicine," said Kira Daigo, with tears in his eyes, as he pointed to his wife, smiling in the distance. Kyomi, still surprised by Kira's emotion, replied with a gentle smile. "So your wife was also affected by the mana vortex, wasn't she? I'm glad she's recovered." "Yes, of course. Look at her now, so happy." "Thank you very much, Mr. Kyomi." As Kira continued to thank him, Kyomi thought to himself, "I didn't expect Kira Daigo to be so emotional. But how does he know about me? I thought the information was protected." Kira then surprised him with an unexpected offer. "Mr. Kyomi, no matter how much I express my gratitude, it will never be enough. I'd like to offer you the best possible reward. What do you think about joining the Frozen Elite?" Kyomi was momentarily silent, pondering. "That was unexpected. It's an honor, but I'm already in a guild," he replied, without losing his composure. "I know you're in Carnelia Rage, but our guild has something you don't have. We have a clue on how to enter the S-Class dungeon, the Abyss. The path, closed for so long, is about to open up. What do you think? Would you like to come with us?" Kyomi thought for a moment about the Abyss, a legendary S-Class dungeon, inaccessible to most adventurers. The gate leading there was closed, and only special conditions could break the seal and allow entry. "Mr. Kira, I've heard about the Abyss, but are you saying there's a way to get there?" "Exactly. To be more precise, we have a clue as to how to reach the core of the first Abyss. Although Carnelia Rage is a powerful guild, this task is beyond Alice Takaji's reach." Kira continued with confidence. "This dungeon is the most difficult and invincible to date. The only ones capable of conquering it are us, the Frozen Elite." Kyomi looked firmly at Kira and asked, "Mr. Kira, you're very confident. And what proof do you have?" "We have information about the S-Class monster lurking within the Abyss. The dragon machine, Kira replied with a cryptic tone. Kyomi was alarmed to hear that name. Kulalukan, where did you get information about him? That dragon? Don't tell me you already knew that. I've heard rumors, Kira continued. Let's keep this a secret, okay? Even if you're my savior, I still can't tell you everything. But if you don't join my guild, you won't have access to all the information. Kyomi pondered. Kulalukan, the monster that was the trigger for me to go back in time after saving Natsu from the mana vortex. Now, I no longer have any reason to face that monster. Besides, I remember everything Alice did for me. He answered firmly. Mr. Kira, I'm sorry, but I have to refuse. Kira, frustrated, tried one last time. Think about it. If you plan to be an adventurer, sooner or later you're going to end up in that place anyway. It's not just the dragon machine, it's a high-quality dungeon. I promise to guide you there. Join us. Kyomi shook her head, sticking to her decision. It's a great offer, but I'll have to turn it down. I owe Alice a big favor for everything she's done for me. Even if I get to that point one day, I'd like to do it alongside her, if possible. Kira sighed, resigned. I understand that. It's a shame, but if that's the case, there's nothing to be done. As long as you're affiliated with an S-class guild, someday you'll be dragged into a confrontation between guilds for the monopoly of the abyss. While you were abroad, many events took place in the world of adventurers. Please take this with you. Kira's assistant handed Kyomi a letter. When he read it, Kyomi was shocked. It was a plan to conquer the abyss with 5 groups of S-class adventurers, and the mission had been officially given by the government. Carnelia Rage had probably also received the same proposal. The government was rushing to seize the opportunity and monopolize the treasures hidden in the abyss. Adventurers are all the same, aren't they, Mr. Kira? Commented Kyomi. Kira smiled. Of course they are. If you understand that, you should get ready. The date is set, and there will be a great conflict. But it will be us, the frozen elite, who enter the dungeon first. You are free to choose your path. Thank you for the offer, Mr. Kira, said Kyomi, putting the letter away. A few days later, Alice was present at an important meeting with the leaders of the major S-class guilds. The atmosphere was tense, everyone aware of the monumental challenge they would face. The head of the association, a man of serious bearing, started the meeting. All the representatives of the S-class guilds are present. We have Miyata Guki, leader of the Honor of the Continent Guild, Mimi Stardale, leader of the Startail Guild, Furinoya Jinji, leader of the Mind Wiper Guild, Kiraha Daigo, leader of Frozen Elite, and Alice Takagi, leader of Carnelia Rage. Today, we're going to discuss the mission sent to you a few days ago. We want you to take part in the investigation and raid on the S-class dungeon, the Abyss. There is still a lot of hidden information about the Abyss, and we ask that you work together to overcome these uncertainties. Furinoya Jinji, the provocative leader of Mind Wiper, let out a debauched laugh. Cooperate, he muttered while looking at the other leaders with disdain. Everyone here is more concerned with their reputations than with cooperation. Mimi Stardale, from the Startail Guild, replied, smiling sarcastically. Why should that be a problem? Having ambition is natural. Everyone deserves to stand out, don't they? Alice, always poised and serious, intervened calmly. This situation is different because it's the government that's asking. Obviously, nobody wants to cause problems with them. However, Taro, from a smaller and less influential guild, remained silent, trying to avoid being drawn into the growing tension. Furinoya, noticing his hesitation, teased, "You're not even that young, Taro. Why so quiet?" The provocation made Taro lose his temper. An intense and powerful aura emanated from his presence, silencing the room for a moment. "It seems that some people are talking nonsense around here," said Taro, cold and cutting, staring at Furinoya. Mimi Stardale, unable to contain herself, teased back, "Is the feeble old man here trying to challenge us?" she said, in a defiant tone. Before the argument got out of hand, Alice slammed the table hard, her expression serious. "I don't want to waste any more time here. Let's continue our discussion in a productive way," he ordered, trying to restore order. The room fell silent momentarily, although the atmosphere remained tense. Furinoya, always provocative, muttered something about being thirsty and asked for a cup of tea, his disrespectful attitude only adding to Alice's discomfort. The relationship between the S-class representatives has never been good, and the government keeps pretending it doesn't see anything. What's more, They want us to conquer the abyss. I have a bad feeling about this, thought Alice, trying to control her growing frustration. Meanwhile, inside the abyss, where the seal had been broken, Kololukan, the dragon machine, a feared and powerful creature, was preparing for its next onslaught. Its dark energies pulsed through the dungeon, and the confrontation that everyone feared was about to unfold. The guild leaders had no idea of the true terror that awaited them inside that place.